Good morning. The June 27th, 2023 board meeting is now in order. I'm happy to welcome my fellow board members and the public. I would like to remind everybody and take this opportunity that the appropriate place for your public participation in the meeting is during your individual public comment opportunity as identified in the agenda. Outside your individual public comment opportunity, your role in the meeting is as an observer. Paul, roll call, please.
Mr. Susan?
Here.
Ms. Wright?
Here.
Mr. Tripp?
Here.
Ms. Campbell?
Here.
Ms. Jenkins?
Here.
The board will now hold a moment of silent reflection and invite the audience to join. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, I'd like to offer my fellow board members and Mr. Rendell, Dr. Rendell, an opportunity to recognize students, staff, or members of the community. Who wants to go first? Anybody here?
I'm all good.
Ms.
I'm not
Campbell?
ready. I'm just gonna run
I'm good.
I like your shirt today.
Thank you, sir.
Shirt looks good, man. Very patriotic. for
Month early,
July
but
4th.
we're
No,
good.
A couple days early. It's
Yeah.
okay.
I'll go ahead and.
You got it?
So, yes.
All right, Ms. Wright,
All
go.
right, so we're in a weird time right now where obviously, it's summer, so our schools aren't open. We don't get the opportunity to go and visit those sites and see our students, our leaders there. So right now, my attention has been community-based. And so I just want to give a shout out to Brevard Schools Foundation. So they had a meeting that happened last week, and really it was gathering of the community, of business leaders, of individuals in the school. I think the union was there just to take a deep dive into mental health and the condition of our students right now. So let's face it, the pandemic, we thought our kids are resilient, they're bouncing back, but we're seeing some things that are a little different right now in our kids. And I will say that I had a student in the North End that took their own life, and I think that's something that I just want to say to these kids, if they're watching this, to parents, like, please talk to your kids about these tough things. Have those hard conversations. We never want our children to make a permanent decision to a temporary problem. And so for me, I just want to say, hey, kudos to Brevard School Foundation on really taking a deep dive into this and bringing the community as a whole together to figure out how do we make things better for our kids. It was a privilege to be there, an honor to be there. Thank you to Mr. Colucci. He was there alongside me as well. So very good, and I expect some great things are going to come out of there.
Okay, who's up next? Mr. Trent.
This will be quick. Yes, being summer, the day after the last board meeting, I flew out of town to spend time with my older children, and flew in last night to attend the meeting today. So I will take this time, though, to say to parents and teachers, your students, your children have this time off please, take the time to, do some special things with them. Teachers regroup, recharge, learn some extra things this summer. We appreciate you, but we want you to come back in August smiling and recharged for our children. So that's it.
Ms. Jenkins?
I just want to say a shout out to Brevard Public Libraries. They have a really cute program they're doing this year for our youngest readers where if you go to the library with your child, they'll give you a necklace with some starter beads on it. And they'll give you a QR code to sign up for an app where you can document the books that your child has been reading. And every time they come back to the library to return their books and pick out new books, they get some more beads to collect on their necklace. And at the end of summer, those beads can get cashed in for a raffle for prizes, for books, for movies, for games, and things of that nature. So thank you to Brevard Public Libraries for making reading fun and engaging for our students, but also giving an outing for some of our parents who need somewhere to go, quite frankly. I also want to thank the ACLU for coming last week. I had an opportunity to attend. I found out last minute from a community member that they were coming here. It was a pretty well-attended event talking about censorship in public education. I appreciate them for coming, for answering the community's questions, and I appreciate the community for being engaged and being concerned and having their voices heard. Thank you for that. I also had an opportunity to meet with the NAACP, the incredible opportunity to meet the president of the state of Florida, as well as the North Central and South Brevard NAACP and other organizations that are very, very active here in Brevard for equity and equality and justice. And one of the most compelling moments was something that was actually surprising, which came from the president of the state NAACP, which was basically a scolding to Brevard County in the honor and the name of Harry and Harriet Moore, that we are a county in which two leaders in civil rights who stood for justice and equity, especially in the area of public education, were here in Brevard, and they fought in Brevard, and they stayed in Brevard, and their power and their mission expelled and expounded upon Brevard and outside of Brevard and across the state of Florida. And she left with a call to action that we as members of a community of Brevard County should be concerned about equity and justice for everyone in Brevard County. And I thank her for that message. It was a harsh message. It was a tone nobody expected. People thought it was going to be a positive rally of some nature. But I appreciate her so very much. And I appreciate the community members who were there and the families who shared their stories, some really difficult, heartbreaking stories. I appreciate you. I appreciate you for that. And I just want to give one more shout out to our staff members who took a challenge of equity gaps, who took a challenge of the learning deficits from COVID, who took a challenge for lack of affordable childcare for our families in the summer, and created our enrichment programs for free for our students across Brevard County. I have heard they are absolutely incredible, engaging, enriching. Thank you for everyone who is participating and working those seminars for our students, as well as our before and after care. There has been some incredible opportunities. I know that the school right behind my home where my child attends, Surfside, had NASA come and attend. I know the students are going to Kennedy Space Center. They're going on field trips, learning about different sports and activities. So thank you to all of our staff members who continue to work across the summer and enrich our students.
Ms. Campbell.
Thank you for mentioning those summer opportunities. Our schools have been busy, and not every school is full of students. Some of them are getting new roofs. But we've had lots of activities going on. I just want to highlight one in particular that is culminating this week with performances. Our Summer Fine Arts Theater Workshop will be presenting their musicals this weekend on Thursday night, Friday night, and Saturday afternoon. Board, it's not too late to get your tickets. I did just check on the website, so Mr. Brune, if we can kind of start pushing that on social media and on the website banner so it's easy to get tickets. The North End will be performing Matilda, at Merritt Island High School Thursday, Friday night, and Saturday afternoon, a matinee show. And then the South End will be performing Pippin at Satellite High School with a fantastic bass player in the orchestra. So I hope you get a chance to get those tickets. It's always a great, great show, and we'd love for as many of the community members to come in. We have packed houses for every performance. Thank you.
Thank you. I think everybody's gone so far, right? We're good. I want to say thank you for everybody coming. When we have a lot of people inside the room, we really enjoy hearing, because from a perspective as far as a school board, this is your avenue to advocate for the different causes that you have. And I really, really appreciate both the new incoming leadership inside of Brevard and also some of the individuals that are coming and advocating for their causes, because that's what's needed inside and that's what our democracy is about. I wanted to say thank you to the home builders and contractors for coming forward today with a check for our COCO Career and Technical Education Center. I think that that's a great opportunity for one of the programs that we have that's at need. Many people know that COCO is one of our career and technical centers that's in most need, because if anybody's ever driven through the industrial centers of COCO, it's one of the backbones for our county as far as producing a lot of the things that we do, as far as construction, as far as brick masonry, as far as everything inside of there. It's pretty incredible. So that's a great opportunity, and I want to say thank you to the home builders and contractors. Also on the agenda today, we also have some of the tradespeople that I spoke to ahead of time. I wanted to say thank you. I grew up in the construction and trades life. My dad was a electrical contractor who was a part of the IBEW electrical union in Detroit, and I grew up since I was 8 years old running pipe, pulling wire, and doing everything on commercial construction. And I appreciate what you guys do every day. And if anybody ever has any question as to how much work these individuals do, take a look at every one of our schools that has construction going on right now. Mrs. Campbell referred to it that many of our schools are under construction and weren't able to have some of these programs. I will tell you right now, the backbone of our school district to be able to runs through many of our 1010 people, and we appreciate you being here today, and we appreciate who you are. Thank you for talking to me ahead of time. I also wanted to take a second. Miss Sarah Robinson is inside the crowd here, and she's the former principal to Vieira High School. I want to wish you the best of luck moving forward on your family. I personally know what it takes to have somebody inside your family move towards making that commitment, and I truly support you, and I want to say thank you for all of your work. Many people don't know, but the things that Ms. Sarah Robinson has done at Vieira have been absolutely incredible. It is the largest school that we have. It is huge in responsibility, and you've done a superb job. So I wanted to say thank you for all of your work. Thank you for everything that you did. And we look forward to having those kids grow, and then you come back as soon as possible so that we can have you again. So thank you very much. I also wanted to thank Dr. Sullivan and others who put together those summer opportunities that we were speaking to earlier. They're amazing. We have kids that are doing stuff that we've never done before. And that is direct representation of this district and the leadership that has happened. And I really want to say, if you have not had an opportunity to see what's going on in our district, many of the other things get more press than what actually is going on. And I wish that more was going on with what we're doing, because that is incredible. The things that go on inside of our schools this summer, for summer school opportunities, for summer school programs, it's incredible. We would have dreamed to have some of those things happening. And if you get an opportunity, reach out or look out for our communications to see how those things are going. I also wanted to say thank you to Kevin Robinson, head of athletics now. He just took over, 10 days ago? And I met with him and talked to him on the phone about different things. And one of the issues that we have is that we are expanding athletics, because many people know that one of the issues we have inside of our schools is discipline. And if you expand the athletics into the middle school, you give those kids opportunities that they are willing to work towards for those discipline issues. Many of the kids that I coached as a football coach or a baseball coach or a track coach or lacrosse or wrestling were right on the edge, and they were difficult kids. But when they had the mentor inside there, when they had an idea of, hey, if I stay in here and I work hard, I'll be able to not only do well in school, but I have something that I can compete against. It gave those kids an extra up, and that is what we're working on. And I wanted to say a big shout out to Kevin, because he came on, and I was waiting for Dr. Rendell. I said, Dr. Rendell, can I talk to him? Can I talk to him? He finally said yes. So Kevin got a big, holy cow, this is what we're really doing. And as far as expansion, all the way down to elementary schools, to middle schools, to high schools, it's just going to be an incredible opportunity for our kids. I also wanted to say absolutely, Mrs. Jenkins, as far as Harry T. Moore, many people don't know, but I was a dual major in history and political science, and my history major was civil rights. And one of the individuals not knowing before I even moved to Brevard was I wrote my senior thesis on Harry T. Moore. And the person that wrote the book, Harry Green, Mr. Green, is an amazing author, and we keep in touch all the time. Many people don't know that what we did with the Harry T. Moore Center was we, 2 years ago, put the Harry T. Moore story and all of the other pieces in curriculum into our actual curriculum and made sure that his story was a part of ours, because it's a dynamic, absolutely amazing story that should never be forgotten. We also rescinded the fact that his teaching certificate and his wife's were taken away back in the day for the activities that they did. And I just wanted to say thank you for Ms. Jenkins for bringing that up. I wanted to talk about the commitment that we actually have to the Harry T. Moore and the civil rights inside of our area, and I wanted to say thank you for that. With that, we can move on
Mr. Chair,
to Mr. Rendell.
yeah, if we can jump in, if I can
No,
jump
no,
in.
no,
and
I
get to-
always give it to you.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, we're getting new at this. We're
Are we
good.
ready?
Yeah, go
right.
for it, Dr. Rendell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have two presentations today. One, Mr. Susan referenced that earlier. We are very fortunate here in Brevard to have strong partnerships with our local businesses and other organizations. So at this time, I'd like to ask Christina Slayton of the Space Coast Home Builders Association to come up to the podium. She has a special presentation for the Cocoa High School Construction Trades Program. So I'm going to turn the mic over to her.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the school board. My name is Christina Slate, and I'm the past president of the Space Coast Home Builders and Contractors Association. And with me today, we have some representatives from our board of directors as well as our golf tournament committee. With us, we have our secretary, Carrie Kundi from Joyal Homes. We also have board member Bruce Moyer from MBV Engineering. And from our golf tournament committee, we have Mason Howell from Whitecap and Virginia Sierra from Regions Bank. Unfortunately, our president, Bob DeBella, couldn't be with us today, nor could our golf committee chair, Mike Jaffe. But I'd also like to recognize the professional team from our association with us today, John Thomas, our CEO, and Tori Johnson, our membership coordinator. The Space Coast HBCA, for those of you that aren't familiar with us, we represent 340 home building companies, general contractors, trades, and other corporations that are associated with the building industry, such as banks, supply companies, engineering firms, attorneys, insurance companies, and those other of the like. Our association focuses on three primary areas: government advocacy, education, and business development. Each year, we host an incredibly popular golf tournament that not only benefits our association, but also our tournament committee also selects a charity each year to provide a monetary gift. Past recipients have included, sorry if you couldn't hear me really well, past recipients have included Promise in Brevard, Wings of Grace Ministries, and Nana's House. This year, the committee selected Cocoa High School Building and Construction Technology Program. The Space Coast HBCA appreciates all the board, this board has done for supporting CTE in our schools, and we hope that our relationship will only strengthen in the future. At this time, I'd like to invite up those from our association that are with us so that we can present our donation on behalf of the 340 members of $2,000 to the Building and Construction Technology Program at Cocoa High School. In addition, Joyal Homes, one of our member contractors, is contributing an additional $350 towards the same program.
Board member. So if the board members could come up and accept a check on behalf of Cocoa High School. Cocoa High School's administration is attending a conference, so they couldn't be here today, but the board members can certainly accept a check, at least the ceremonial check, and we can get a picture. Thank you.
They don't know it. I usually stand up here, so you gotta come up here. You guys just gonna stand right there with the check, and then all the politicians will try to get around. No, we usually are in the back, and then you guys are up in front. Where's that check at? just did want to say that during that golf tournament, that you had forgotten to say how great the school board members played that came out to play with you guys. You know, there was a bright, shining golf pro that was out there, Mr. Trent, and I think that the numbers that we didn't win by may be able to be called in question because we legit put our stuff down. Some of your other players may not have, so we want to call a course judge to follow those other teams because I think we played pretty good together. So I did just want to say thank you, you guys. This means a lot to us, and we appreciate any other time that our trades programs get an opportunity. I know many of you guys personally, and I just wanted to say thanks, and we look forward to hearing and having another check next year. We have a lot of career and technical programs that are in many different areas, and we'd love that support. So thank you so much. Appreciate it. Dr. Rendell, you have somebody else?
Yes, sir. So I'd like to ask Cindy Lisinski, our CFO, to come up to the front while I talk about her and her department. And so any members of her department that she'd like to bring up as well. So we're very fortunate to have a strong finance department, and we were recognized by the Association of School Business Officials for our work. So I'm going to read this verbatim so I make sure I don't miss anything. The Association of School Business Officials International honored the School Board of Brevard County with their Certificate of Excellence in Financial Reporting for the annual comprehensive financial report for the fiscal year ending 2022. This award represents a significant achievement and reflects your commitment to transparency and high-quality financial reporting. So congratulations to our finance department, led by CFO Cindy Lisinski, for achieving this award and providing much transparency to our community on our finances. Congratulations.
Good job, guys. Good job, good job. They gotta keep scooting, there's a lot.
We gotta get double row here. You want me to go down there and help them out?
No, I think they're doing it.
actually Directing have a traffic good enough?
Frame for you, so we'll come out to the front.
Yeah. Have some of you stand up on the back, yeah, that's, yeah, good job.
If half of you guys
Good job,
can
good
fill
work.
this, and half of you guys can fill that. I deal with 5 kids on a regular basis. I deal every angle there is to know about school.
Oh my.
Yeah. Gene's gonna get on my shoulders. No, you're fine. Stop trying to hide from me.
I just want everyone to know that this award is really, really a big deal. So we not only get a clean audit, but we're identified as actually just going beyond. So I'm so incredibly proud of our folks. They do really, really amazing work. And, you know, this is our team, but it's also the entire district. Anybody that touches a PO or a P card or anything, all the things that we purchase is very clear. It's very transparent, and it shows what we believe in as a school district, and that's making sure that every child, every student gets an excellent education. And I can't be more proud. And one of the things that Rich Miller and his team are leading to become more automated, and the hope is that we can put out this report quicker, you know, with less corrections because of, less hand touches and things like that, just to make sure that we can automate. And we're moving they're a great team. They're super smart, and they're doing a lot of great things. Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations again.
Congratulations.
Dr. Rendell, if I just jump in, I was serious about what I told him a second ago, which is it makes me nervous when all these people are in here because I think, what is falling apart when the entire finance team and budget team are in here? So they do such a great job. And these are people, some of whom I've actually never seen before, because they are heads down, working hard, making everything run. And so we're so thankful for all of you, and glad you, even though you're not the kind of people who like the spotlight, glad you got your moment in the spotlight today.
Congratulations again to the department. Mr. Susan, that's it.
You good?
Yep, I'm good.
All right, that brings us to the adoption of the agenda. Dr. Rendell.
On this morning's agenda, we have administrative staff recommendations, 29 consent items, 1 public hearing item, 2 action items, and 1 information item. Changes made to the agenda since release to the public include the addition of F17, job description, early childhood registrar data specialist, and F22, renew the school board's casualty insurance policies. Also, the deletion of award of bid 23-913-B-HD, Freedom 7 Elementary School, and revisions to A7 administrative staff recommendations, F32, which is the 2023 educational plant survey, and F38, outside legal counsel contract 23-104, 2-A-KR-Wagstaff and Cartmel LL, and co-counsel regarding social media litigation.
Do I hear a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We are now at the administrative staff recommendations. Do I hear a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All right. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Okay. Dr. Rendell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a great moment for a lot of people in the room today. It's a great moment for Brevard Public Schools with some people taking on new leadership roles. This is a time where we celebrate their journey into administration or their journey up the ladder in administration. So the first person we want to recognize is Deanna Smith, who is moving from the position of assistant principal at Enterprise Elementary to the position of principal at Meadow Lane Primary Elementary School. Deanna Smith.
Thank you so much. I would like to thank the board, Dr. Rendell, and Mrs. Klein for this opportunity. It has been an honor and a privilege to serve the Port St. John community these past 4 years as assistant principal at Enterprise. I have built some incredible relationships with my staff, my students, and my families there, and I'm going to miss seeing them each and every day. Throughout my career here in Brevard, I've had the opportunity to work with many great leaders. But I have to give a special thank you to Mrs. Dufresne. I have learned and grown so much under your leadership, and I truly don't believe I'd be where I am today without your guidance and support, so thank you for everything. I have to thank my family. I'm fortunate to have my husband Brian, my son Landon, and my daughter Sophia here with me today, and many family members watching from home. I'm just so thankful for their belief in me and the support that they provide me, and it's because of you that motivates me and inspires me to reach my goals, so thank you for that. And lastly, I am super excited to be joining the team at Meadow Lane and serving the West Melbourne community, and I cannot wait to meet the staff, students, and families there very, very soon, so thank you all so much.
Congratulations. So next, we'd like to recognize Christine Makalavage, who is going from the position of teacher on assignment at Gardendale Separate Day School to the position of assistant principal at Cape View Elementary School.
So, I'm Kristen Mekalovich. That's pretty good, Dr. Rendell. Thank you, Dr. Rendell and the board. I am super excited to be coming to Cape View. Melissa Long, thank you for having me. When I walked in here today, the first friendly face I saw was Mr. Rashad Wilson over there, and he gave me some beginning leadership opportunities at COCO. I'm very grateful for that. I used some of your initiatives examples in my interviews. I had a lot to draw from, so I really appreciate you for that and how that changed me as a teacher. Thank you to Misty Bland, Kelly Grugan for hiring me at Gardendale last year. That was probably the highlight of my career so far, and I'm really looking forward to moving on at Cape View. I feel like I'm coming home to Cape View because my son was a sixth grade graduate there many years ago. He's at Vieira now. Lastly, I want to thank my husband. He, of almost 30 years, he has certainly endured, and I'm real excited, proud to be a Rocket. Thank you.
Congratulations. Next, we have Lisa McGowan, who's going from the position of ESE Support Specialist to the position of Assistant Principal at Freedom 7 Elementary School.
Good morning. Thank you, everyone. First, I would like to thank the board, Dr. Rendell, Jane Klein, and Elementary Leading and Learning for providing this opportunity. I'm sincerely grateful for Alexis Van Duren, our art teacher, and Jennifer No, IB coordinator, and especially Catherine Lott of Freedom 7 for taking your time to interview me and believing in me. I would like to thank Dr. Patricia Fontan for hiring me as a support specialist new to Brevard County 9 years ago, and her leadership the past 9 years. I'm sincerely thankful for Dr. Lori Braga, Christine Carver, Stephanie White, and Christine Rosado, my Gemini and Indy Atlantic Elementary work family, for spending the past years with me and believing in me as a leader. And I'd also like to thank Jennifer Julian, principal at Columbia, for her mentorship, both support, personal and professional. And finally, last but certainly not least, I'd like to thank my husband, Jeffrey McGowan, for his love, patience, and support. And my daughter Zoe, for reminding me that play and laughter are just as important as hard work. Thank you all, and I look forward to this new chapter.
Congratulations. So next, we'd like to recognize Erica Lucarati, who is the new assistant principal at Lockmar Elementary School. Erica.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chair, board members, and Dr. Rendell for this opportunity, and also thank you, Mrs. Klein, for welcoming me back to Brevard Public Schools. I am so excited to be joining this awesome team of teachers and administrators once again. Prior to stepping into leadership for the first time, I've had some fantastic role models and administrators to learn from, and I would like to thank Elaine Passanisi, Darlene Rogers for believing in me and pushing me out the door to become an administrator, and then Miss Stephanie Hall for taking a chance on me several years ago. She has taught me so much, and then once again, Mrs. Campione for her, belief in me that I can come back and do a good job leading Brevard Public Schools. A few other people I'd like to recognize, Miss Kelly Gunter and her leadership over the past 2 years, and also Dr. Roberts and Dr. Ivory for their guidance through my leadership journey. I unfortunately do not have my husband here, but he has been my rock. Without him and my 2 little boys keeping me going and on my toes all the time, I don't know how I have the energy for this job, but I love and truly believe in the work that we do for our kids, and I am so excited to be back. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
So next up, we have Patrick Harrigan, who's going from the position of teacher at Stevenson Elementary School to the position of assistant principal at Stevenson Elementary School. Mr. Harrigan.
Oh, good, you're recording it. Thank you to the board, Dr. Rendell, Mrs. Klein, for this opportunity. It's been 9 years for me at Stevenson. Tiffany Flieger has been instrumental in my growth and development as a leader. So I cannot imagine I'd be standing here giving this poorly prepared speech without her assistance. I'd like to thank my parents, because also it'd be really hard if you guys were not here for me not to be here, and for having raised me and to give me the tools I needed. Jennifer's my wife. She's a kindergarten teacher. She helps with our 2 boys, and they are a handful, and I love them. And we decided that they could watch us later. Thank you all very much.
Congratulations. So next up, we have Prashanda Leonard, who is going from teacher at Jackson Middle School to assistant principal at Space Coast Junior Senior High School. Prashanda.
Good morning. I would just like to thank the board. Thank you, Dr. Rendell, Dr. Sullivan, Ms. Weibel, Dr. Ivory. Thank you so much for believing in me. Mr. Flora, thank you for believing in me. I also like to thank my family that's here with me today and my friends, my husband, Richard. My son, Richie, came all the way down from Gainesville to bless us with his presence. Go Gators. My cousins that came all the way over from Orlando, one of them worked all night long for the medical examiner's office, and she came on over this morning. She hasn't even been to sleep yet. My friend Ann, all my family that's watching online. My daughter Ashley, she couldn't be here because she is in Louisiana. She just graduated from law school. She's studying for the bar. Hey to all my family that's watching online. I just want to say thank you guys for being there for me and your unwavering support. I'm so excited to be a Space Coast Viper. I can't wait to get to work. Thank you.
So last, we have Christopher Higginbotham, who's going from assistant principal at Gardendale Separate Day School to the position of assistant principal at Vieira High School. Congratulations.
Thank you. I just wanted to thank Dr. O'Brien, Misty Bland, and Kelly Grugan for getting me here. I wanted to thank Ms. Robinson, the APs at Vieira High School, Ms. Vega, I don't know where she's at, but she's back there. Also, thank you to the board. I've met each and every one of you at the campus of Gardendale. And of course, Dr. Rendell, thank you for this opportunity. And last but not least, my beautiful wife, the #1 supporter for all these people is honestly the family. So I don't think we could do it without them. But thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think we're done.
Thank you. We're now on to the public comments portion. I'm sorry, does
I-
anybody wish to say anything?
Yeah, I
Ms.
do.
Jenkins.
We have 2 significant resignations, and these 2 incredible women asked me not to say anything, and I told them I don't promise I'll do that, so I'm not reneging. But it would be an absolute disgrace and disservice to not recognize them today, and so I'm going to take the opportunity to do that. Dr. McKinnon, you are a queen. I have appreciated your friendship, your honesty, your kindness from the day that I've met you, the second that I met you. You live, breathe, die for what you do for a living. And I only could hope to achieve to be the career professional that you are. I am grateful to have shared time with you. I am grateful to have learned with you and to commiserate with you. There is so much that this woman has done for this organization that has not been highlighted. She was given little to no resources, no staff. She had mitigated an intense, disturbing racial injustice in one of our middle schools that was continuing for almost a year. She mitigated it to save the face of Brevard Public Schools, to support the administration and the teachers and the families and the students, and to provide a learning opportunity for our students who were making significantly wrong choices. And I appreciate you for that. And that goes unrecognized because it isn't talked about. And I appreciate you for that. She was tasked with hosting our first historically black colleges and universities night here in Brevard Public Schools with, again, 0 staff, 0 resources, and barely any time. She came together with our community, with those colleges and universities, and the first one she held here was a packed house with over 500 people in attendance. And at that point, that was one of our highest attended parent engagement events we've ever had here at Brevard Public Schools. But then that wasn't enough for her. And the following year, she doubled down and had over 1,000 people at the historically black college and university night at Vieira High School. And I guarantee if she was to stick around, there'd be 1,500 the following year. You are an incredible human being. You deserve nothing but acknowledgement, respect, and I am so proud of you for where you're going. I'm excited for you, and I am so glad that you get to leave with a badge of honor and integrity and continue to do what you love and affect change to kids who need it the most. And I guess they're technically adults now, but whatever. I am so proud of you. Thank you. Thank you for all that you do, and I'm sorry if you, I know you didn't want to shout out, but you deserve it, and I'm not gonna be quiet about it. Sorry, Dr. Sullivan. I'm going to try not to repeat myself with words, but it's hard. You have given over 25 years of service to Brevard Public Schools. I have received letters of love, shock, awe, support, consideration, and concern from the second that people heard that you had made this decision. You are an incredible professional. It will literally be impossible to replace your position. You, just like many of our staff members, wore 25 hats and did 25 jobs, and you did them spectacularly. You gave 60 to 70 hours of your life during COVID. You answered phone calls at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning to help our families who were struggling. You supported our administrators who were new. Through challenges, you pushed them to go to schools that they may not have felt comfortable with to find out that that was the perfect fit for them and for some of our most difficult schools, communities, and students who needed it the most. You have held this organization to a standard of integrity and accountability and transparency every single financial step of the way, which shouldn't even be your job. You took on our CARES Act funding, you took on our ESSER funding, and you demanded that we put that out to the public as transparently as possible. Every single time there was the tiniest little change, the board was updated about it, and so was the public. That is so critical. You have remained a constant neutral voice in the most divisive political time in education possible. The most neutral voice. Navigating one of the most hot topics that we have right now. Again, demanding transparency. You as well deserve nothing but accolade and respect. And I respect your integrity and your conviction. I am so happy for you to move on to something else in your life. I hate that you're leaving us. You know that. I told you that. But I appreciate you so much, and I hope you know that this message left rippling effects in this organization. Rippling effects. I shared some with you, but I absolutely didn't share them all. Rippling effects. And I'm sorry, again, I know you told me not to acknowledge you here, but I'm absolutely not going to ignore that. Over 25 years of service to Brevard Public Schools. And a husband who is an educator as well. I hope that my husband and I can continue in public education as long as you two did, with the integrity and conviction that you have, and I appreciate you, and I wish you nothing but success and the best in the future. Thank you.
Ms. Campbell, you wanted to say something?
So the last 3 years in education have been very difficult. it was not easy before then. But I very much appreciate Dr. McKinnon's the attitude and the smile, the joy that she brought to her job. I don't think I ever walked into a room that I wasn't greeted with just a face full of sunshine. And so I appreciate, and it was just the title of your job being a point of controversy. But I appreciate that you jumped in wherever needed and really were part of a team and surrounded yourself with a team so that everybody was engaged, because the work that you were doing is something that we all need to be a part of. And so I appreciate very much the work that you've done. For the people who only started paying attention to our meetings in the last couple of years, some of you missed the extensive responsibilities that were laid on the shoulders of Dr. Sullivan, who led our reopening task force and those record-breaking 11.5-hour meetings that we had in the summer of 2020. She was the point person. And so I don't think she thought it was going to be 11.5-hour meetings. I think the staff thought it was going to come in and present it to us, and we'd be over in 4 or 5 hours. And the board, took that plan that they had so carefully crafted and kind of just, I won't say tore it all apart, but just wanted to get into every bit because it was so crucial and just answer those questions. There is, and I'm going to add in there Ms. Klein, who they are quite a team, and through those years and then beyond, there are. When we get angry emails, just to give you a little insight into how the board operates sometimes, when we get angry emails from parents, our first responsibility is, hey, go back to the teacher. Did you go back to the principal? Follow the chain of command. But then at certain points, you send them straight on up, right? And the straight on up is to these two ladies, Ms. Klein and Dr. Sullivan. And I have to tell you, I have so many, I could just tell you, except for most of these stories I can't tell you, but because of student privacy rights, but story after story after story after story of these two ladies handling those conflict situations with so much grace and tact and compassion with students, when students would reach out, with parents, with you guys, you principals and assistant principals who know that they had to take a lot of heat. But then the heat sometimes goes over your head, and then they take it for you. And so just finding solutions. And I'm so thankful for the solutions that you found, because me as a board member, I don't have the power, and it's not my responsibility to find those solutions for people. They come to me and they want, I want a solution now. And I knew that you two ladies would take those problems and turn them into solutions, and you did that so many times. You worked so well with these teams and with our community, and I know you're not gone. I'm glad you're going to be here for another month to help with the transition, but you are very much appreciated, and I wish you all the best. And you two ladies have been on my prayer list for the pressure that you've been under, certainly for the last several years. But also just wanted to add my appreciation and admiration to the work that you both have done. I know that you have great support networks at home, and look forward to hearing where you are used in the future.
Thank you. Mr. Trent?
Sure. Being new to the board, I didn't have years and years of experience working with the two ladies that we're talking about here, but to Dr. McKinnon, congratulations, your new position. It's got to be exciting. It's one thing here at BPS is we should and we will be priding ourselves on the advancement of our employees, and we wish you the best. And to Dr. Sullivan, I truly wish you the best in whatever life brings you next. I know dedicating 25 years to any organization is worth mentioning. So thank you for what you've given us here at BPS, and I wish you the best in the future.
Thank you very much. I would agree with a lot of your comments, Ms. Jenkins. 100% appreciative of the work that these three individuals have given us. Dr. McKinnon, thank you for the time that you've been here. Thank you for the work that you've done. You worked with me on many issues that I was able to call you. You answered them, you got them done, and we got them completely taken care of in an effective time, and I appreciate that. You also made me a part of the organization where you called me in to speak to a lot of the different groups that are inside of our community to make sure that we advocate correctly with them, and I appreciate your work, just like what Ms. Jenkins said. Putting together some of those events were some of the most prolific for many of our students, and I truly appreciate your work here in Brevard, and I wish you the best of luck on your next step. Let us know how we can help you in that regards. There might be some connectivity there, something like that. So thank you so much for that. Dr. Sullivan, I truly appreciate all your work. There has never been anybody that I feel tackles an attempt, or any time like we had a situation, many of the things that were spoken to were taking over CARES Act, taking over all of these other issues that you've done. And then we had a situation where student services had no leader for a little bit, and you took that over too. So I want to just say, from a perspective of taking over and doing a great job in your work here at the district, your work as far as 25 plus years inside the district is greatly appreciated. Not many people know that the prolific work that she did as a COCO principal and some of the things that go on at COCO, and she's truly appreciated back there. And I just wanted to say thank you. As I was sitting here talking about the programs that are available over the summer, and there's just so many pieces that you've done, I started getting emails from videos and stuff like that of some of those programs, or texts on my phone from them, and I just wanted to say thank you for all of your work. Wish you the best of luck. If there's anything I can do to help you from my perspective, I'm always there for you. Thank you. I also wanted to say that her husband, not only being a great BPS person, employee, is arguably the greatest basketball coach we've ever had in Brevard. And I think that goes without saying. There have been other people that have brought great things, but overall wins, program development, everything else. So what a great family we've had, and I thank you for both of your services. The other person, Ms. Klein, I wanted to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. You know, there's a lot of battles that we were in the beginning of me being a school board member prior to anybody being on this board, and I appreciate some of the opportunities that she made for individuals who were wrongfully attacked or wrongfully accused of things, and she came through for them. I also wanted to say, just like Ms. Campbell said, we get emails all the time from parents who are very concerned with a lot of the things that they do as far as our schools, and it is not even a question how fast that was taken care of. And I just wanted to say, you know, we have 3 people who have dedicated arguably over 70 years to Brevard Public Schools, or between 60 and 70 years. And that never should go unheard or congratulated inside of our system. And I just wanted to say thank you to all 3 of you for your dedication, and look forward to seeing you do great things in other places, and I will support you in doing that. And with that, Mr. Trent?
Yeah, I forgot. I had it here. I just forgot to continue reading when I gave it. But same thing with Ms. Klein. Thank you so much for the time here. Retirement is something that we all dream about at some point. So hopefully a year from now, you're not sitting in a meeting at the end of June, but you're sitting somewhere with a nice cold beverage and somewhere around your family, I would hope. So thank you very much for your time here.
Hang on, Ms. Jenkins.
Okay. I just want to thank the 3 individuals that we are losing, because I do believe that is a loss for Brevard County Public Schools. There's a wealth of knowledge. I don't have the extensive history with these 3 women that a lot of my fellow board members do have, but I can tell you that every interaction has been professional, and we appreciate the service that you've given to Brevard County. You are an asset that we are going to lose, so we are I'm sad about it. I am, honestly. But I wish you the very best in whatever it is that you do, and I am certain that every one of you will do something amazing with the remaining career that you have left. So thank you for your service to Brevard County.
Ms. Jenkins?
Yeah, Ms. Klein, I apologize because I didn't know that was public yet. And I have no access right now, so I apologize. I'm not going to forget about you. Sorry. It was no surprise to me that you 2 as a team, if one of you was not going to be here, the other one might not be as either. I don't know how you would continue to turn the cogs without one another. Again, I believe you've given 29 years of service, 28?
Nope.
30, you're at 30
29,
already.
29.
32.
32.
32 years of service to Brevard Public Schools. We don't hear that anymore. You, just like the other two women, I acknowledge your integrity, your conviction. You have supported so many administrators throughout your years of experience here. It is unimaginable. I don't think people are aware yet. Quite frankly, I found out from the public from all of this. I know people look forward to retirement. I know you weren't. And I'm happy you will take time for you, but your loss to Brevard Public Schools is significant. The fact that we will have 2 major vacancies at the top of our organization is significant. And I know that wasn't an easy decision for either of you. Never mind the last 6 months that we just went through. I appreciate you for sticking it out. I appreciate you for dealing with challenging, very unprofessional times and keeping your head high for the staff beneath you, from shielding them from some of the things that were happening, because that was critical for the stability of this organization. Thank you. Thank you for your years of service. Thank you for all that you do. I appreciate you. And again, like Ms. Campbell said, I know you guys aren't leaving tomorrow by any means, but I'm gonna savor the last 30 days, or when you start your vacation time. Thank you. Thank you, Jane, and I'm really, really sorry. You guys are gonna be missed. Thank you.
We're back up.
We are now on to the public comments portion of the meeting. We have 17 number of speakers, and each will receive 3 minutes. I will call up 3 speakers at a time. Remember speakers not to mention anyone else by name except for the board members. The first 3 speakers are Gregory Welch, Tracy Arzola, and Dawn Swinger. Please come to the front, and if you are called, what's that? Yeah, I almost said the front office. Please come to the front, first speaker up, and then individuals who are speaking next, please take the front seats. In the event that we're waiting on somebody, I may just go to the next speaker if they're available. So thank you, Mr. Gregory Welch. Hang on just a second. Let me get this thing started here. There we go. All right, Mr. Welch, we're ready.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Gregory Welch, and I've been a maintenance employee with BPS for the past 16 years. Most of the board members up here weren't even here when I came here. So some of the problems I'm going to talk about right now existed before you were here. In 2007, we had a freeze. There was no promotions, no raises, no nothing. We had to stay pat, and they told us it was going to be for 2 years. Stick with us, it's going to get better. It went for 3. Okay? At the end of that, we had a thing called the STEP program, where every employee gets moved up a step if they get a good evaluation, can do their job. The STEP program got taken from HR and hidden with the union, and everybody in supervision told all of us, the STEP program is no more. We had a director by the name of Dennis Bonney. Dennis Bonney and I got into an argument about it because it's on your website and it's on Local 1010's website. 2 months after Dennis died and him and I had that argument, I got a 2-step increase. I was lied to, just like a lot of us are. All right, we're tired of being lied to here in maintenance. Now, everybody here is important. Your teachers are important. Your custodial staff, your kitchen staff, your bus drivers, and they all deserve the raises that they've got. But you guys forgot about maintenance. when you have supervision that tells you they don't know what's going to happen, and you have to find out through the media what's going on, that's not good communication skills. It needs to change. We need to make some changes here. We can't attract people to come into maintenance here because we don't pay enough. If I was working at one of the school systems around us, I could be making more money. In New River, for example, I could be making $32 an hour. I make 20 here after 16 years. So I understand it's a problem of money. However, when you look at all the building that's been going on in this county for the last 4 years, and an average house is $249,000, those taxes are a lot better than what we used to get. Okay, so I've always heard the whole time I've been here that we have no money. We have no money. Not accurate. We have money. It's how we spend the money. So we need to come up with something for the maintenance people because we can't attract the newer people to come in at the salaries that we pay.
Thank you,
Keeping
Mr.
the
Welch.
people,
Appreciate
keeping the
your
people
time.
that we have is going to be
Thank you
difficult.
very much, Mr. Welch. We appreciate your time. Tracy Arzola, Dawn Swinger, Bernard Bryan.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Tracy Arzola. I am an employee at Brevard Public Schools. I'm an HVAC 3 mechanic, and I work in building automation systems. My job used to have 3 people in the office. It's been 1 for over a year. That's me. I also handle all the filters in the county. I'd like to thank the board and Dr. Rundell for the opportunity to speak today also. We're appalled by the movement made for the bus drivers. We're not stating that they do not deserve more money, but we are stating that we all deserve more money. The decision should not have only been for one group. All of us at BPS have been working harder to keep up with the growing demands. With 12 million square footage under air, not to mention millions of square footage of grounds, and more being added in the very near future. We have had a new elementary school in the last 3 years. We're getting a new middle school, not to mention new buildings that have been added to some of the schools. For instance, MIMS, Southlake, Cocoa Junior High, Vieira High, and the talk of one at West Melbourne Science. We're gaining more with less. We're also shorthanded, not just the bus drivers. The shortage has so much to do with pay. We have some techs that have been here for more than 8 years that aren't even making $20 an hour. We currently have 10 open positions in maintenance that have been vacant for some time. Years ago, we had more employees in maintenance and only gets smaller as the demand gets larger. In custodial alone, we're about 20 short. HVAC 3, heavy equipment operators 1, carpenters 2, roofers 1, electrician 1, painter 1, flooring 1, although I'm not sure the shortages in areas such as kitchen and IAs. This may not seem much to some, but with the size and demand, it is many. Most do not apply due to pay, and when they do apply, they are not experienced enough to last. Some have left after they received their first paycheck. We are all here to help keeping the buildings running and safe for the students and faculty. Yes, bus drivers get the students to the schools and then home. We are all here throughout their day, helping to reach the mission of serving every student with excellence of standard. Mr. Sesson, you yourself have bragged about the CTE trade classes, but failed to support trade workers when they come to work for BPS by low pay. We want to encourage more people to get involved with trades. This is not how we do it. And per Dr. Rendell, the bus driver is the first person many of our students see when they start their school day. This pay increase is a statement that we value these team members and the critical work that they do. Where is our appreciation and your show of our value to this team?
Thank you, Ms. Arzola. Dawn Swinger, Bernard Bryan, Anthony Colucci.
Hi. My name's Dawn Swiger. I'm with the HVAC department. I've been in the school board for 25 years. I fix air conditioning as well as a number of other responsibilities. Many of us finding ourselves wondering what the school board plans to do to fix the wage compression that has happened. You rarely hear from the maintenance department. We work in hot places, we do dangerous work, we work hard, we go home tired. I understand the deficiencies in the bus driver department, but there are also deficiencies in the maintenance department. The gaps are filled by contractors at a great expense to our budget, ourselves. We work a large amount of overtime just to get it all done. Years ago, filters were taken away from the custodians and given to us. No additional employees were added to our workforce. Our controls department used to have 7 or 8 techs, it now has 3. We can't hire knowledgeable people for the rate of pay that the school board offers. In addition to filters being given to us on top of our normal responsibilities, now we also have to help troubleshoot and fix controls to cover that shortage. Every time new responsibilities are given to us, we rise to the occasion and we keep the buildings cool. We've had the responsibility of teaching interns from Space Coast Junior Senior High's HVAC program. We became the teachers. This put a strain on our resources because one or more of our techs would lose productive time every day picking up and dropping off the interns. But still, we rose to the occasion and managed to get our jobs done. Because we're not offered competitive pay, many of our new hires come in with little or no experience. We train them. Perhaps you believe you can simply replace us with contractors. I can't tell you how many things we fix behind the contractors. The list is way too long. When I walk into the schools, the staff knows me. They know my face. When I make a mistake, I'm accountable to them. And I care. A lot of us have stayed for the benefits and the retirement. Some of us went to school for years to learn our trades. You have a painter that's been here for 29 years, HVAC techs that have been here for 15 years plus. They don't make $20 an hour. The man that maintains all of your generators for our emergency shelters will now make just a few pennies more an hour than a starting bus driver. He's been here for 17 years. These wages are unacceptable. Just because we work hard and overcome challenges that are thrown our way doesn't mean we should continue to be overlooked and underappreciated. If something isn't done soon to fix the wage issues, you risk losing loyal, knowledgeable, hardworking people. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Swinger. Mr. Bernard Bryan, Anthony Colucci, Jason Blair. It's okay, he knew, I called him before, Mr. Bernard Bryan, Anthony Colucci, Jason Blair. I've been saying the names with the mic the whole time. It's okay. Colucci knows. I know, it's fine, they can hear me.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay, go ahead.
First of all, I'd like to thank Dr. Rendell and this board for allowing me to be here. Just want to say a couple of things. I have no children in Brevard Public Schools, and I have no family in Brevard Public Schools. And the reason why we're here, me and my wife, is because we love Brevard Public Schools, and we love all of our students as well. So I'm standing here on behalf of the South Brevard branch NAACP, as well as the concerned citizens of South Brevard. Just want to let you know that we are concerned about our students. We're concerned about the instability now that we're seeing in our leadership. We're seeing a lot of changes, and the people that will be impacted is our students. And that's why I'm here today, letting you understand that we're very concerned about that. I read your HR report. I saw 14 teachers that actually resigned. 14, and I'm not sure what the standard turnover rate, but to me, that is a major instability because our kids will be suffering because of that. So I don't know the reasons why, but if your stability is not stable in your leadership, those students will have a negative impact because of that. So I kind of asked myself the question, not having the inside information, why are they leaving? Is it because of culture wars? Is it because of banning of books? Is it because of the attack on different subgroups? So I think that's a question that the community really wants to know. But the thing that I'm concerned about is the achievement gaps in reading and math. And I haven't seen the recent data, but I'm thinking that that gap is going to get widened. And I'm concerned about what is the recovery plan in that area with the instability that we actually seen. And I think I cried twice today. My heart is broken a little bit. This Brevard public school staff is a very powerful staff. But when I see the loss of Dr. McKinnon, when I see that we're losing Dr. Sullivan, and when I see that we're losing Mrs. Klein, I don't know what the reasons are. Is it because of lack of inclusion? Is it because of lack of shame value? Is it because of lack of not making reading and math a priority? I don't know what the reasons are, but I do understand, and I want this board and this leadership team to understand instability impact those at the lower side. Our kids will suffer because they're used to seeing Dr. McKinnon and Ms. Klein and Ms. Sullivan. And I gotta be honest with you, they're very good people, and our kids understand that. I don't know what the reasons are, I really don't. But as an operations manager for over 15 years at Collins Aerospace, if your leadership team is not stable, my people under my leadership team would actually suffer. So I hope that there's a mitigation plan, there's a recovery plan of losing these valuable knowledge of over 50, 60 years. So please give the community confidence, especially the South Brevard Branch NAACP, the concerned citizens of South Brevard. What is your plan? Because reading is important and the gaps are getting wider. So that's what we're looking at from the community perspective. Thank you so much. And I want to also say that, again, my heart is broken because I know these people personally. So God bless you. And if the community can be of any help, please let us know.
Thank you, Mr. Bryan. Mr. Anthony Colucci, Jason Blair, Ricard Soetioji. Ricard Soetioji. So Anthony Colucci, Jason Blair, Ricard Soetioji. Mr. Colucci.
My name is Anthony Colucci. I'm the president of the Brevard Federation of Teachers. Over the last few weeks, I've had the privilege of visiting 26 amazing summer school sites. At these sites, I've been impressed with the programs going on and the hard work of our teachers, administrators, and staff. Parents have really been taking advantage of these programs, and most of the enrichment programs focused on the arts, STEM, and culinary have been packed with students. Administrators have told me that many charter, homeschool, and private school students are attending these programs as well. Hopefully, the quality of these programs will bring these students back to our public schools. I believe these programs were an excellent investment, and I hope BPS funds them going forward. But what impressed me most was seeing the joyful learning and teaching going on at these sites. And for us, that's what education is all about. The joy that teaching brings to the teacher and that learning brings to the student. Then I think of these meetings and how far removed the discussions here are from the realities of what's happening in our schools. I looked around, I believe there's only one teacher here today. School board, as we start a new chapter in our district, I'm urging you to do everything you can to make the work you do in these meetings more about our schools and less about culture wars. Teachers, administrators, and staff are all tired of being collateral damage in the war. We are exhausted and want to be able to focus on our jobs without all the noise. On behalf of our teachers, and I'll take the liberty to say administrators and staff as well, please stop feeding into groups of extremists on both sides of the political spectrum. Instead, we ask that you focus on bringing back joy to the classroom. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Colucci. Next up, Jason Blair, Mr. Soetioji, and Mr. Ross.
Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Jason Blair. I work proudly in our maintenance and grounds department. I am part of a 3-man crew that all hold Class A commercial driver's licenses. And we also happen to operate heavy equipment for Brevard County Schools. The staff I got is great. The 3 of us, we drive the biggest things on the road for the county. And our license is even higher than the Class B for the bus drivers. It was brought to my attention that the district has decided to increase the bus driver pay to $20 an hour. I am all for the bus drivers receiving an increase in pay. I actually started my career with Brevard County Schools as a bus driver. I didn't make it to the first day, but I learned a lot. I think they deserve it, but I'm sure they deserve it, and as do all our maintenance and support staff. That's really what it comes down to. I feel like we're kind of being left behind. You know, we've got a little higher credentials that we have to have in order to drive the larger vehicles and operate the heavy equipment in the school district. So my concern is that our crew with the Class A licenses, for example, we're held to a higher standard, greater responsibilities on us, and our pay really doesn't reflect that. Because of the pay scale, we can't even find people to work in our department anymore. It's literally just 3 of us doing the heavy hauling for the school district. We're losing a lot of positions based on that. Just please consider that there's other staff in the district, mainly your maintenance department, that put just as many hours and just as much effort in maintaining our facilities to provide a safe learning environment for your students, for our students. I thank you for the consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Blair. Mr. Soetioji, Mr. Ross, and Mr. Mueller. Thank you. I hope I said your name right. I'm so sorry if I did not.
It's all right. First of all, I would like to say good morning to all of you. And my name is Rick Corso, teacher, and I work with the grant department as a heavy equipment operator. And I heard the bus driver get a raise of $20 per hour, and I know for sure they'll really deserve for that. But it's kind of like don't really fair for to get us, you know, for the pay for it, because the bus driver, they just get a raise a little while ago, and then they get another raise for another $5 an hour. It's a big jump for it. I'm pretty sure, you know, they deserve it. But we also have much responsibility, or more than a bus driver. We drive a big truck, the biggest we have, a semi truck, and we operate big machinery like big excavator and front loader, and also another machine that we have. And I understand that the bus driver is short of the driver, roughly about 90 driver. But we have 88 schools and multiple vacant properties that we have to take care of it. And we only have 3 of us with the commercial driver license Class A. And like Jason said before, you can't find people to get hired because the wages is not competitive. I just want to see, we're asking you to consider giving us a raise or maybe a match with the bus driver, just because everything what we do. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Gregory Ross, Mike Mueller, Marcus Hockney.
Thank you, Board, for allowing public comment today. Quite a few things to talk about today. Off the top, Mr. Susan, please, wait till people are done applauding before you call. We can't hear you out there in the audience. Okay, the extra 30 seconds isn't going to kill you at the end of the day. First off, same question I've been asking every 2 weeks for the last month. Why is Gene Trent still getting paid by BPS? Why is his health insurance still getting paid by BPS? There's an inequity in how teachers who have lied on their applications have been treated in this district, okay? I'm waiting for an answer for that from the board. Moving on, Mr. Susan, you like to take credit for lots of things. I know you're on the political campaign trail here. Earlier today, you like to say you took credit for the summer programs and all the great summer programs. That was Dr. Sullivan that created those summer programs, okay? And her crew. You know, I know you like to add yourself into that, so. I was also kind of weird to see the D3 candidate for school district come in here and buy his support, right? What good timing. What good timing. Very nice. It's kind of the typical Brevard corruption. It's low level. People don't understand that that's just the way it's done, right? Mr. Trent, Mrs. Wright, it was great to see the finance and accounting office up here getting an award for their accuracy and their precision, right? And yet, I seem to remember on the campaign trail a year ago, the big thing was, we need audits. That's what you guys said. The accounting and financing department at BPS doesn't know what they're doing. We need audits. Do you remember saying that on the campaign trail? There was lots of public comment, lots of people here who got up here and said that as well. And yet the reality is that's not the truth, is it? BPS is run well, it's financially run pretty well, okay? But on the campaign trail, that's not what you said. And lastly, I hope the lesson here is learned. The bus drivers deserve a raise. But this is the price you pay when you have now mechanics and everybody else in the district is going to come up here and say, where's our raise, right? That's the price you pay when you do it for political reasons instead of for the right reason, which is to look across the district and ensure everybody gets a raise. I know your hands are tied by the state, right, and how the budget works, but quit putting politics over students. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mueller, Mr. Hockman, and Ms. Haynes on deck.
Good morning, board members and Dr. Rendell. A few days ago, I had the privilege to attend a public meeting organized by a local group who invited members of the American Civil Liberties Union, better known as the ACLU, which in my opinion is a far-left political organization. The theme of the event was Speak Up Against Educational Censorship. I have to admit, I was a little perplexed to see Ms. Jenkins at the meeting, as she is a member of the school board and the ACLU is currently suing school districts across the nation. In fact, members of the ACLU panel said during their meeting that they are actively recruiting parents, teachers, students, staff, and union representatives to obtain information that can be used as actionable items to legally go after this very school board. Looks like a bit of a conflict of interest to me, but that's not for me to decide. In any case, I just want to thank Ms. Jenkins for the special treatment I received from her that evening. She literally crossed from one side of the room to the other side, where I was standing all by myself, and she planted herself firmly right next to me. This, what can only be described as a heartfelt gesture of support for me, did not go unnoticed. Overall, it was a wonderful meeting and I learned so much. Thank you for having my back, Ms. Jenkins, and thank you for creating this special moment for me. I truly appreciate it. Thank you.
Mr. Mueller, thank you very much. Mr. Hockman, Ms. Haynes, and Ms. Castellano on deck. Mr. Hockman? There you are. Come on, brother. Yep. I see.
Good morning, school board and superintendent. Welcome aboard. A few issues that I would like to talk about. The first thing is the workshops. I appreciate the workshops that y'all are doing. I encourage it for the next few years. I hope that trend keeps going and going, because to me, that's when the workshops get the most governing done. You have the most people at the table. You lay out all the issues, so keep doing that. Now, one issue I would like to see being talked about at a future workshop is ESE. And specifically for me, my two concerns for that is VE in our middle schools, okay? Because to my knowledge, there isn't any, but I could be wrong on that. I don't know if it's being developed or not. I see shaking heads of no, but I wasn't sure what was being developed or not over the summer or not. And the reason is, what I like to see that is because I've had many teachers come to me, including my own opinion, when you have a continuum of services, you also need to have a continuum of placements, okay? So that needs to be addressed. That's putting too much pressure on our middle schools, especially if it's our middle school teachers, ESC teachers, especially if we're already low on teachers, and some of those schools don't have those ESC teachers, et cetera, okay? So that is an issue. And the next thing also is, for me, is ESE extracurricular activities for middle school and high school. Kind of brought this up over a year ago. I know there's a lot of changes, et cetera, but kind of worked on it with some people here. Hopefully they'll get back on the groove again eventually. But I like to see more ESE students in actually their athletics, not just be a team manager, not just do that, actually participating and having their own thing in a way. How that gets done, we'll see, especially when we're the changing of structure here at BPS and everything else. I know this might take a year plus the two things I just talked about. Now, the next thing I wanted to talk about is the books. And especially after yesterday, I read some email and I read some stuff last week and I was a little bit confused on the meeting, so I apologize for that when I sent you guys the email last night, which you guys know what it's about. But the other part I want to talk about is to the public. Our volunteers are volunteers. No matter what you think of these five, whatever political spectrum they are on, two of them are at least politically polarizing, I get that. But when they pick somebody to represent them, they're volunteers. As a public, they choose free will to be there. We need to choose to have the free will and have the decorum and be respectful to those volunteers. If you have issues and problems with the whole thing, you talk to them here. You don't go after them, intimidation, disrespectful thoughts that I've been hearing about. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hockman. Ms. Haynes, Ms. Castellano, and then Ms. Kervin.
Good day. I'm here to speak to you all about some misconceptions that are being spoken about in this room on a regular basis. And I'm going to start with a comment that was made by a previous speaker at the last meeting regarding racism, CRT, hate, and the left agenda that tries to turn everything into a racist agenda when it is absolutely not. I'm talking about the comparison between board member Jean Trent and Lavander Hearn. Now, I'd like to start off by saying I do not know Mr. Hearn. I could not pick him out of a lineup.
Yeah, Ms. Haynes, if we cannot say individuals' names that are not, you could say Mr. Trent, but please
Could you
don't.
stop the clock, please?
Yeah, please don't use individuals' names that's part of the speaking policy, so if we can.
The only problem is, Mr. Susan, is that the previous speaker used both names.
I corrected when we did that. Listen, it's
Okay.
something that's our policy. I appreciate the time, but we have to keep with the rules and regs.
Okay.
So thank you, Ms. Haynes.
Anyway, I do not know the gentleman in question at all, but I do know some facts. I know that for a fact there was an issue with Mr. Trent's application, and that Mr. Trent was disciplined for that issue. You may not like the outcome, but the fact is authority did make that decision. The other gentleman is an entirely different situation. And the other gentleman's skin color has nothing to do with his background. 38 cases on the Brevard Clerk of Courts. And I believe that the case that probably carries the most weight was the charge of a convicted delinquent felon having an arm, a gun in his vehicle that he was driving, which was an AK-47 with one in the chamber and loaded magazines in the trunk. So if you know anything about guns, that's probably one of the biggest violations right there, one in the chamber. So stop using race as the basis for every judgment that comes down the pike when it comes to the school board and the outcomes of different cases. And then I'd like to go on to something about cell phones. You have a cell phone policy where you're not going to allow children to have cell phones. in the classrooms, and now I hear possibly not at lunchtime, not in the hallways, et cetera. And that's all good and well, because kids are sent to school to learn. But I find it rather hypocritical that the majority of you sit up there during meetings on cell phones. If you are employed and in a private sector, there are many companies in this county where you have to lock it in a locker, and you cannot have it out on your desk or in their place of employment. You can go at lunchtime and check your messages or do whatever you want, but during the business hours, you're being paid to conduct business. And I don't know if you are texting each other and violating sunshine. You can text anybody in the audience you want because that's your right.
Ms. Haynes, thank you so much for your time. I
Thank you.
appreciate it. Thank you. Have a great day. Ms. Castellano, Ms. Kelly Curvin, and then Rachel Jolly. Rochelle, sorry.
Good morning. Mr. Trent, I have persistently said that there is a legal definition of pornography and what is acceptable in our libraries, and that arbitrary action beyond that law is a violation of my parental rights and un-American. You proved that point with your statement, on record. We are removing books that are not only violating law, that we just say we don't want that in our library. You get 3 votes. You can remove a book because you don't like the cover of the book. We're not removing books just because it violates the law. If you don't like the standards set at the state level, then stop electing the yahoos who write them. And how dare you present an ethics issue when you are still collecting a paycheck from BPS, in spite of lying on your employment application, which regardless of what led to the banning of another teacher, it's the exact same offense which led to a black man being barred from working for the district for a year. And now you, Mr. Susan, nice opening comments. I do love the smile. I love that you're so attentive to people when they're in alignment with you, and you're dismissive when they're not. Nice opening comments regarding the Moors. However, you are on record saying that you would like to preemptively ban, and thank you for using the word ban, because we know that's what it is, all books by Penguin House Publishing because they are practicing their First Amendment protected right and suing another district entirely. Are you ignoring the fact that the lawsuit is based on banning books about race? What is happening here? Threatening to punish Americans for practicing their First Amendment right is the most un-American act imaginable. Yet we see it happening all over the state. By the way, Flags of Our Fathers, which is the story of the raising of the flag at Iwo Jima, was published by Penguin House. And you would ban that book all to own the libs or whatever it is that's actually driving you. It certainly isn't providing excellence for all of our students. Ms. Wright, you said of the book review committee, they didn't sign up for this. Well, yes, they actually did. It's a volunteer committee, and they're entirely volunteers, and they can resign at any time. They're the ones making the decisions regarding books, and their decision is currently binding. They should have to hear from citizens regarding the same. They're legally required to hear from citizens regarding the same. Until the final decision regarding the banning of these books is formally returned to your body, public comment must be allowed. It's the law, and it's the right thing to do. And all of you, in your concern for the sensibilities of the volunteers who accepted your appointment to their committees, where was your outrage when people were calling your teachers pedophiles, when they were calling your teachers groomers, when they were spitting on the faces of people coming here to support teachers? Where was your outrage when one of your members accused another member of being mentally ill, and then his fan club showed up in t-shirts repeating that claim? Perhaps you should learn from the professionals that these people are fighting, who serve our students with joy, as Mr. Colucci said, and love of public education. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Curvin, or Ms. Castellano. Ms. Curvin up now. Ms. Curvin's up. Rochelle Jolly and Katie Delaney.
Matt, you said late last year that fixes to our policy would help with teacher recruitment and retention. Once again, the agenda shows that more teachers and staff are losses than gains. Is there an update for that? Jean, I was a little taken aback by comments you made during the work session on June 6th, specifically about who your boss is. While the board talked about professionalism and decorum not only at the dais but also to each other, you said several times that if something went wrong, you expected someone from the district to haul you into an office to talk to you about it. You've been at this job for 7 months, and I'm a little concerned that you didn't know what running for the school board meant. So I thought I'd help you clarify. I am your boss. Most of the people sitting behind me are also your boss, and those watching online are too. Every Brevard County citizen is your boss. That is what being an elected official means. So when someone comes to the podium or writes you an email or calls you or even stops you at the grocery store, those are your bosses pulling you into the office to tell you what you've done wrong. It's also an opportunity to tell you what you've done right. Now let me be clear. I'm not saying you have to change your stance based on what you hear or that those who reach out get to be your puppet master, because it's not that type of job. So in 2026, if you decide to run again, that's your report card, and it's pass or fail. You're either reelected or you're not. You also claim that there's a group of people trying to burn the house down. I'm assuming you meant me in that, right? Just to be clear, you're wrong. My daughters are actually educated by Brevard Public Schools. Why on earth would I want to burn the house down? It makes zero sense. Every time I speak, or I write an email, or advocate, it isn't to burn the house down. I'm literally trying to hand you a fire extinguisher and you refuse to take it. Also saying that people need to grow up because they don't align with you. You openly disrespect our students and still don't apologize, so I really don't want to hear it. Now that we've established that we the people are your bosses, Matt Susan, please do not ever tell District 5 Katie Campbell that she is the reason the media thinks this board is dysfunctional. Are you kidding? Is that a joke? You are the reason this board is dysfunctional. I also question your judgment of letting Jean Trent go on a tirade against a fellow board member, Jen Jenkins, knowing that she was homesick and couldn't defend herself. Not only does this show a clear bias, it's also a clear lack of leadership on your part. I sound like a broken record, but optics, y'all. This message isn't just for y'all, but also Dr. Rendell. I can only speculate that you forgot the camera was rolling at the June 6th meeting, because I'd like to believe as professionals, you would have thought more before you spoke. However, this has just become a pattern with this board, and it only continues the perception, and frankly the reality, that you're putting politics over students. Stop it.
Thank you, Ms. Kervin, Ms. Rochelle Jolly, Katie Delaney, and Carrie Takis, finished by Mr. Andrew Kemp.
I would first like to start off with saying that while some of us would like to live in a little bubble and believe that racism doesn't exist and that systemic racism doesn't exist and that CRT isn't a thing, I'd like to point out that the gentleman that was spoken about today having a gun in his vehicle, if you do your reading, and perhaps maybe you attended BPS and you're behind in your ability to read, but those charges were dropped and never even went to court. And also, I would like to say that both of those charges, including Mr. Trent's, were considered violent charges. Mr. Trent also, his charges were also dropped and nothing became of them. However, it did take this system a lot longer to come to a conclusion for Mr. Trent than it did for the other person who happens to be black. So I'd like for you to explain to me what the difference was that they both lied on their Brevard Public School applications. During the June 6th school board work session, which was held off-site and not live-streamed, Jean Trent said, adding a stipulation to the policy about ethics that the book review committee should commit to would be a good idea. It's important to note that Jean Trent cannot work in Brevard Public Schools for a year because of his unethical choice and lack of integrity to lie on his Brevard Public School application. Why is Jean Trent still receiving a salary and health benefits from Brevard Public Schools? Why hasn't our board chairperson asked for his resignation? That would be the ethical thing to do. I would also like to point out that the United States Code, Flag Code 8D states, the flag should never be used as wearing apparel, bedding, or drapery. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Jolly. Ms. Katie Delaney, Carrie Takis, and Andrew Kemp.
Thank you. I don't know if this is on. There we go. I just wanted to speak about the leadership changes that are going on. And I wanted to say that it's absolutely normal to have movement in an organization after leadership changes. This is nothing new. It was expected and needed in Brevard. I respect Dr. Rendell's experience and look forward to seeing his plan for BPS unfold. Under the previous regime, we fell to 37th in graduation rates. We even had one school with only 67% graduation rate. That's embarrassing. Especially when I was part of this district, we were in the top 5. Some would say there was a toxic work environment here at BPS because of a few at the top. Many principals were afraid to talk about real issues due to the real possibility of retribution. In order for BPS to get better, change was needed, and it still is needed. As we see today with the maintenance people speaking up, there is a major budget issue, regardless of awards BPS is getting. Paying our people should never be an issue. Being told there is no money is unacceptable. This is due to reckless spending. And I thank this board for tackling this issue. Moving forward, the focus needs to be on education, not culture wars. Board, I encourage you to keep charging forward through the noise. The children of Brevard need you, and their education is at stake. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Delaney. Ms. Takis and Mr. Kemp up next. Ms. Takis. Yep.
Thank you. Brevard Public Schools has fallen 37th in the state for graduation rates. And to echo Mrs. Delaney, one of our schools' rate of graduation was only 67%. Our literacy rates have been on a downward spiral, threatening the very foundations of our educational system. Stats such as these should bring change within a district, and with those changes come the potential to reverse this alarming trend. It is said that change is the only constant in life, and in the realm of education, this sentiment holds true. As we look around our school district, we cannot deny the signs of stagnation paired with toxic culture where principals and teachers alike fear retribution for speaking out. Graduation rates and literacy rates have suffered as a result. The future of our students, our community, and our society are at stake. It's time we take a bold step forward to embrace change and to pave the way for a brighter tomorrow. I want to thank this board and Dr. Rendell for making those changes so that we can move forward and raise our graduation rates, raise our testing scores. We live on the Space Coast. Our kids have every opportunity to go work at one of these space companies, and we need to help them achieve the opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Takis. Mr. Kemp.
Hold on just a second.
Is it you or me?
Too many buttons. Okay. My name is Dr. Andrew Kemp. I am a child of Brevard County Public Schools. I went to Indian Atlantic Elementary, Hoover Junior High School, which is what it was called before it was a middle school, and I graduated from Melbourne High School. I went away to school in Florida. I went to Stetson University. I went to the University of South Florida. I got a degree in English, and I moved back and became a teacher in Brevard Public Schools at Rockledge High School, where I was the person that started the Cambridge program and was on the team that started AVID. While I was at Rockledge, I got my doctorate, and when I finished, I moved into higher education, specifically teacher education, and I did that for 15 years. It got to the point in life, my mom still lives in Indian Atlantic. I was like, you know, I think I want to move home. And I was quite joyful to do so because I missed Florida. Well, now I'm back in Florida, and it is not joyful. It is miserable for teachers and students. And And the biggest issue that I think there is this active policy to desecrate probably our most sacred institution, public education, by sharing misinformation and making policies that are not based on knowledge of the actual issue, but bullet points that were handed to you. Because of this, large swaths of our population, students, are being ignored. They are, if you are black, gay, lesbian, trans, pansexual, asexual, non-binary, if you have different abilities, if you're of a different religion, all of those are silenced. So only one voice becomes prominent, and that is the dominant voice of the majority of the school board. And like I said before, when I was in higher education, I created doctoral and master's levels classes on racism, social justice, LGBTQ. That's what my career was, is doing that stuff. So I have a deep knowledge of each of these things. You don't. You say you do, but listening to policy points are just purely incorrect and is making you nothing more than a spokesperson for people that hate. And that's about it. I have 4 seconds left. Enjoy your time, because this is going to happen a lot.
Thank you, Mr. Kemp. Appreciate your time. That concludes public comments. We thank you for your willingness to address this in this public manner. We're going to take a break. Some individuals have asked to use the restroom. Take a 5-minute recess. We are now on to the consent agenda. Dr. Rendell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There are 29 agenda items under this category.
Thank you, Dr. Rendell. Does any board member wish to pull any of these items?
I do.
Okay, which ones did you want to pull?
I want to pull F18, F20, F21.
Twenty and 21.
F18, F20, F21.
So you've got F18 job description bus driver, F20 job description chief of schools, F2,
21.
F21 job description assistant superintendent curriculum. All right. Paul, does that take a second, or are we good on that?
No, she can pull.
Good. All right. So with those pulled, I'll entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda items with the exception of those pulled for discussion if applicable.
Move to approve. Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Passes 5-0. Okay, Ms. Jenkins, you have the floor for F18.
We need a motion and a second first.
Yep.
Move to approve item
Yep.
F18.
Second. Any discussion? Ms. Jenkins.
Okay, so this was a topic of conversation in our public comment, and I've got a lot of questions here. So I'm going to start off by saying first and foremost that we had a meeting as a board in which all 5 members agreed to an increase to $20 an hour for our bus drivers unanimously. And all 5 members gave instruction to the superintendent to bring it to the 1010 bargaining unit and to hopefully push for an MOA to expedite an agreement to pay our bus drivers as soon as possible so we don't wait for the ratification of an entire contract. It was brought to my attention by a post on social media from Brevard Public Schools, as well as a press conference in which Ms. Wright was a part of, that we apparently had come to this agreement, which is wonderful. But then it was brought to my attention that this may have never been brought to the 1010 negotiating unit. And I have deep concerns with that. Number one, that is not what the board directive was to the superintendent. And number two, I question if that borders on the line of unfair labor practice to the 1010 unit. There is a positive outcome here, but there was no need to circumvent process and procedure because there was a unanimous agreement to this amount. Behind closed doors, Ms. Wright one time asked me if I worked for the union, and my response was, I am pro-union, I was a part of the union, and I will always be pro-union. And so I am a school board member, but I'm an educator at heart, I'm pro-union at heart, and I'm concerned by the process that took place for this. Because though it was a positive outcome, it tells me that it's potentially going to happen again and could be used in any way possible. I'm concerned that there was no phone call to hear that we had come to this agreement, which I guess there wasn't an agreement because it wasn't proposed. I'm concerned that the president of the 1010 unit was approached in a hallway to sign an MOA. I'm concerned that the response to are we allowed to do this or does it have to go to the negotiating table was I can just change their job description, which is what's on the agenda right now. That concerns me. It's just wrong, and there was no need for it. And the only thing I can imagine was the intention was to put it out there to look like a champion and a hero when we all agreed to this. It doesn't make sense. And 1010 could very well try to file unfair labor practices and delay the raise for our bus drivers, which was an unnecessary risk. I personally believe that a bargaining unit with very little paid membership was taken advantage of, because I know you wouldn't have done that to BFT with over 60% membership, because they would be coming screaming at this podium if that happened. It's wrong, and it was so unnecessary, because it's a positive thing. But here's my other concern. My other concern is we explicitly had the conversation in that room that we were concerned about how this would look to our other staff members who significantly need raises as well. And the way this went about was wrong. It should have been at the table, messaged correctly with the union, message that we care about you as well. You are important as well. We are working on you next. And a reminder of the increases of the millages to come, to give them something to hold on to and look forward to until we get there. But that's not the message that we sent, and it's evident based on the emails that we're getting, the phone calls that we're getting, and people showing up here today. And they have a right to do that. They should be annoyed because it was done wrong. And there was, again, zero need for that. I'm concerned. I'm concerned, and I would like an answer because clearly Ms. Wright got a phone call because she showed up at a press conference. So I want to know who else got a phone call about this agreement being done and that there was going to be a message from BPS. Because I don't care if I'm a constant minority dissenting voice, I get a phone call. And I didn't get one. And so I want to know why. I want to know if this was brought to the negotiation table. And if it wasn't, why wasn't it? I want to know if there was an MOA that was reached. And if it was, when? And do we get to see it? And I want to know, what is pay grade 50 on the job description? And why do we think that this is the correct way to go about it? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jenkins. Does anybody else wish to have any comments? Seeing none, all in favor?
No, absolutely not. I asked a question of our superintendent.
Hang on, Ms.
No,
Jenkins.
sir.
No, you will not.
No, sir.
Hijack this meeting.
No, sir.
Ms. Campbell?
You will not
Ms.
hijack
Campbell?
this meeting.
You had something to say.
Well, if a board
Go
member
ahead.
asks a question on something or vote, we usually ask, it's appropriate to
Sometimes.
ask the superintendent and staff. to
Not
provide-
sometimes, Mr. Susan.
To provide answers to our questions before we're about to vote on something that's very important. That is the proper procedure, Mr. Susan.
And Ms. Campbell, if you remember, the proper procedure is also to send an email to staff, to us, to everybody
Mr.
else to ask.
Susan.
Mr. Gibbs, can you please
Could you make it more
have some
obvious
sort
that
of
you were aware of this
parliamentarian
happening?
piece to this? Can you explain that
Absolutely
while I'm
not.
speaking that I should not be interrupted as chair?
Mr. Susan.
One person at a time.
Thank
Great,
you, thank you.
great.
Ms. Jenkins, please.
Mr. Susan, you cut me off to
Ms.
call a vote.
Jenkins,
No.
please, would you stop?
No.
And you're out of order. Thank you. So the issue is that we have multiple ways to communicate. We have emails, we have everything else.
Yeah,
I'm
we have
okay with
phones,
taking a
too.
vote. Everybody else okay?
Hang
Yeah.
on, Mr. Susan. We do, but when we come into a board meeting, we shouldn't come with our mind 100% made up, because part of the process is we have some public input.
Yeah, and-
And so when we have public input, and that may come into play, you know, in our decision-making, we can ask questions. And yes, there shouldn't be surprises from the dais. We went through our school board working guidelines. We asked board members not to pull stuff from consent agenda without letting the superintendent know. But there are times when that happens. And I think that it would be appropriate to ask our CEO to provide some kind of response to the questions.
And Ms. Campbell,
I asked those very same questions, and I got a response from the CEO. I think it would be okay to ask
Perfect.
to get those answers.
Just so you know and understand the process, after that comment was made, I looked at the board members and Dr. Rendell and asked if anybody else had anything to say. Both of them didn't, along with Dr. Rendell, so I moved to vote, and then you said, I'd like to speak. So that's it. So we're not trying to cut anybody off. It was just given the opportunity. So if they have that opportunity, then they would say something if they wanted to. If not, we move on.
Mr.
And that's the
Susan.
process. Ms. Jenkins, you've had your afforded your time. Is there anybody else that wishes to say anything? Dr. Rendell?
Yes, I do.
Ms. Jenkins, I will call on you when it's your turn.
You don't get to
Dr.
call on me,
Rendell.
Mr. Susan.
Dr. Rendell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to clarify some things, when I walked away from the closed session, I thought the direction was to pursue the $5 an hour raise with the bus drivers. That was the directive, pursue the $5 an hour raise with the bus drivers. In talking with Labor Relations, there was a way to grant that, to meet that, to get that $5 raise without going to an MOU. We are in a crisis situation with the lack of bus drivers. So the idea was to move as quickly as possible to get the word out that we were going to raise our bus driver salaries by $5 an hour. The quickest way to do that was to rewrite the job description and put it on the agenda for approval. When we decided to do that, I did notify the board chair and worked with Mr. Brune to set up a press conference. When the board chair wasn't available, then we went to the vice chair to see if she was available to be at the press conference. Should I have called all 5 board members? Yes. I should have called all 5 board members to make sure that you knew that we had found a way to do it and we were going to move it as quickly as possible to get the word out as soon as possible so we could hire as many bus drivers as possible. So not calling all 5 board members is my fault. I will take ownership of that. I will make sure it never happens again. We were trying to move as quickly as possible. I thought that was the directive of the board, get the $5 an hour raise done as soon as possible, so we did that. We've had over 60 applications already, so we're moving in the right direction. Should I have called all 5 board members? Yes, and I will make sure I do that in the future.
All right. Any other discussion? Mr. Trent?
Sure. Yeah, I too left that meeting with clear thought that we said, get them the $5 an hour raise. Something I learned early on was, as a board, we are the what and you are the how. I did not receive a phone call, and nor did I expect one. So don't apologize to me, because you were doing what we asked you to do, and thank you for doing so. It was a crisis. It is a crisis. Bus drivers, we heard it, and we answered it, and I'm sure we're going to look at all the other positions. We mentioned that in that meeting also. We knew we were leaving some people out, but that was expected. But hopefully it shows BPS that when there's an issue, we're going to tackle it, and we'll get around to all of you eventually. Thank you.
Ms. Wright?
Since we're speaking about the meeting that we were all present to, I too left that meeting with the clear understanding that we told you, go forward, make this happen, find a way to make it happen. I have to believe if 1010 had major issues with what was taking place, that they would be here today and they would be voicing concerns, but I have not seen them, and I have not heard from them, and I haven't, so to me, I would think if there was a problem that 1010 had on this, that they would have come forward and said something to the board members, and apparently maybe you're the only one who got that phone call. But no, I think this wasn't a either or. So we heard a lot of the maintenance crew today talk about the fact that they feel left out in this, and I don't disagree with them. The wage compression issue has been something that this district has had for many, many, many years. It is ridiculous when somebody that's brand new coming in can get hired at a higher rate than someone who's been with our district for multiple years, and that's something that we have to tackle as a whole. So it wasn't either or, it was this is a huge crisis. If we don't have students in our schools, we don't have schools. We don't need facilities. We don't need cafeteria. We don't need any of it if we don't have students there. So if we don't get our students there, we've got to get them in the classroom. So transportation delivers those children every single day safely. And so we needed to do something, and I'm grateful for the board for taking the 5-0 initiative on making that happen. That's a tremendous step in the right direction. To the other departments out there that feel that they were left out, please know that you're not left out. You're not overlooked. It was that was the fire that was burning the brightest at that moment that had to be taken care of. So I hope that the board takes the initiative really to tackle some of these issues with the wage compression so that we don't see this continually happening over the years. But I left there with the same understanding, make it happen, find a way to make it happen. So I did receive a phone call. I received a phone call because, as he just stated, it sounds like the chair wasn't available, so that was why I was brought into the loop of this. I'm excited for this for our drivers and our transportation department. I think this is going to change that department as a whole and make things a lot easier for everyone and better for our students. So thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to go back around because as we were listening to the public comments, we did have quite a few talk about their years of experience, and it is, we do sometimes in solving one problem create another issue. But just because this is an information that is not always as I'm going across the last, even since November when the voters approved the millage, the communication of how it's going to work has not always gone out to every group of employees. I just want to make sure to remind our experienced employees that those MOUs on the millage have already been settled, were settled before we voted. And so then that's something that our brand new coming on bus drivers and other employees will not be receiving. So, and I know the numbers may adjust depending on the amount of money we're expecting to get in, but our 18-plus year 1010 employees will be looking at an additional $4,500 per year, not bonus, but supplement, FRS eligible, tax like regular income, salary, and then our BFT, 19-plus years, $6,800, and then it steps down from there. So I just want to make sure everybody is reminded that, one, that's coming, and that it's coming soon, because our amazing finance department that was up here a little while ago made sure that we could fund that in advance of getting that money so that all of our employees can start getting those millage stipends starting in their August paycheck. Can't remember which one, but it's one of the August paychecks. So just to all our employees, especially to our experienced ones who've been caught up in some of that wage compression, just remember that that's coming, and it's coming very soon. And that will make some of a difference, which is one of the reasons why the majority of the board a couple years ago, last year supported it, and the public has supported also, and we're very appreciative.
Thank you. Anybody else? Good?
Yep.
Oh, Ms. Jenkins.
So you could say what you want on this dais. The agreement in that room and the directive in that room was to go to the negotiation table, not only to Dr. Rendell, but to Green. And if possible, to get an MOU to expedite the raise. That was the directive inside of the boardroom. And I hear the apology for not calling. However, we did have a conversation a couple of days ago on the telephone in which it could have been said, and it wasn't. And that only leads me to believe it was intentional. Inside of your cabinet meeting, it was brought up and fluffed to the side. Your HR director had a concern with the way it was done. It was wrong. And don't assume because 1010 wasn't present today, they aren't concerned about it either. It was wrong, and it was unnecessary to gain the same positive outcome for our staff. It was wrong.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ms. Jenkins.
And hold on, I will be voting against this job description change because it is concerning to me that that is the process we took to accomplish the very same goal we were offering our staff anyway. Our bus drivers deserve that raise. But 1010 deserves the respect to come to the table like they should have. It's wrong.
Okay. So with hearing that, I did want to follow up, and Dr. Rendell did reach out to me as the board chair. I was actually in the mountains on vacation, and the rightful process is to have Ms. Wright be the individual that represents the district, so that was a good one. I have no problem moving forward with changing the job description. I feel it's a good pathway to get it ahead and get it taken care of. As a former union member, as a former person that has voted in support Mr. Loris and 1010 and everybody else, I would hope that she would understand we have 66 applications as we stand right now. We are so far ahead of the curve as far as applicants before any of the other school districts are starting to try to wrestle. We've had some of the most amazing responses. There were emergency meetings in other transportation centers across the county, other school districts. There were applications where there was people who were talking about coming from Orange County and carpooling to come to us. This was an amazing response. And that is the story that we should go by. And granted, if there was some miscommunications, we're moving so quickly. I apologize to Dolores. I'll call her after this meeting. She did not contact me through the entire thing, so I apologize. I did not know. But I feel truly that if we want to fix a problem with school bus drivers, that this was the fastest and quickest way. And I thank you, Dr. Rendell, for taking that leadership. I thank you for making that happen. And moving forward, if anybody else doesn't have anything, I'd like to call a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
4-1, you got that one? Okay. Next up, we have F20. Move to approve.
Second.
Is there any discussion?
Yes. So, I have the same scenario with this situation. I received a phone call from Dr. Rendell about a potential reorganization. And when I asked why, I didn't really get a good one. And I told, this is not a surprise. I told Dr. Rendell I was going to talk about this on Tuesday. I gave him forewarning. I said I was going to ask why again. The explanation I got was because of a report written by a short-term employee that we hired to do a job that wasn't consulting, who ended up doing a consulting job. An employee who never had a one-on-one meeting with the top 3 people in those director positions and in those assistant superintendent positions that she then wrote a report about. And I very quickly said to Dr. Rendell, that is not a why for me. That doesn't justify this change for me. What else do you got? And the response was, well, we did it this way 9 years ago, and since then we've had a significant academic decline. And when I asked if we can put that on a slide with data, the response was, I cannot prove a correlation between the organizational chart and our academic decline. So that was not a why for me either, and I continued to press and ask why. The next why that I got was because of conversations with staff, principals, and some directors. It's not documented anywhere. That wasn't a why for me either. In a time when our organization is so unstable, to me, this was not a necessary change. The other explanation I got was because of the audit from RSM telling us to focus on discipline. My response was the audit actually recommended that we have a department dedicated solely to discipline, and that is not what this solution is. This creates another department that will have 2 jobs. That's not what the recommendation was. That wasn't a why for me. I know the why. I told you flat out, you don't need to try to pull a hood over my head. I'm not surprised by this. But we've seen the significant ramifications of this decision already, and it's only going to continue. I am deeply concerned that we make rash changes over and over and over again without thinking about the consequences to our students, to our schools. There is never a thought process there. When I ask why, there should be a solid reason why. This is a huge organizational shift. Keep laughing, Mr. Susan. Do you know why? I bet you don't.
Are you finished?
No, I'm not.
Well, please continue.
Please don't interrupt me. Thank you.
Just asking if you're going forward.
Let me tell you something publicly while you're looking me in the eye. When the Office of Safe Schools called RSM for our discipline audit, they specifically asked about individuals in our assistant superintendent positions by name. I wonder why, Mr. Susan? Yeah.
No idea what you're
I don't
recommending.
care. You don't need to
You're
answer
off
me.
the
Point of
rails,
order.
Ms.
Point of
Jenkins.
order,
Please
Mr.
bring it
Susan.
back on track.
Point of order.
Please bring it back to the
Point
agenda
of
item.
order. It is the agenda item. I am
has
talking about the intention of an organizational shift with no significant justification as to why. Then, our staff members find out about it walking in a hallway again. It's inappropriate. You don't pull someone who's been working 25, 30 years for a district and pull them aside in a hallway to tell them about a demotion. It's wrong. And I asked for the discussion to be at the end of this for board superintendent communication, and it's not on our agenda. I asked for that. You know that? It is so deeply concerning how off the rails this organization has become, how far away from student outcomes we have gone. It is off the rails.
Thank you, Ms. Jenkins. Does anybody else have anything to say?
I'm not done, Mr. Susan.
Ms. Jenkins, we have to move on.
I
These
don't care, Mr.
5-minute
Susan.
pauses in between
I don't care,
conversations.
Mr. Susan. Enough.
Not making it worse, I'm just trying to get through the meeting.
This organization, our cabinet, our staff, and our community deserves an answer as to why. They deserve an answer. So, I'm going to,
Are you finished? Ms. Jenkins, are you completed your sentence? Are we finished here?
I don't know, you finished laughing. Dr.
Waiting on
Rendell,
you.
I would like an explanation as to why this is necessary in this moment.
Yes, Mrs. Jenkins, we were scheduled to meet last Tuesday at 10 a.m., and I was going to go over all this with you then. You were not able to make that meeting, so I did call you in the afternoon and go over the rationale for the 2 job descriptions, the changes to the organizational structure. You may recall that during the interview process, it was one of the 5 things I said I was going to look at when I came on board if I was to be selected, was an organizational structural change. So the rationale for that was based on my experience in other organizations in Brevard previously and my last 4 years here as a junior senior high school principal here in Brevard. Also some data, also the report, as you mentioned, from Dr. Cody, also the RSM audit. All of that is outlined in the PowerPoint presentation for the workshop later today. I did give you all of the rationale, the reasons behind all that on Tuesday. You were not satisfied with those. I can't do any more. You know, based on my experience and training in this profession for almost 30 years, that's why I believe these structural changes need to happen. The chief of schools position, which we're talking about right now, is in place in almost every other large district in Florida, either as a deputy superintendent or chief of schools. I had those organizational charts ready to show you at the meeting last week. It is a way to service our schools better, to provide support to the principals better than what we have recently seen. It's the model we used to use before, similar to the model we used to use before with area superintendents and then area coordinators. So the chief of schools position, the one that's currently under discussion, is a way to better supervise, monitor, and support the principals in their mission. That's the rationale for the change. That's the rationale for the job description.
So, Dr. Rendell, I'm just curious. Why is it our staff members were told that it was because it's the will of the board? Because I didn't have a discussion with you about it prior to that phone call.
I never said that.
Okay, well, I'll take your word for that.
Ms. Jenkins, to help with the further conversations, if when you're finished, you can say, I'm finished. That way we don't have any mistakes. So if you're moving forward, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Just a second, that rushes through. I know we're trying to get done, and I'd like to have some lunch too, but it's not rush. It's really hard in issues like that because we have some sensitive, emotions are running high with today. I'd like to separate out the job description from the people that we're attaching to these, and knowing my personal feelings of respect and honor that we've already shared this morning. This particular, the job description, I actually am in favor of. I think it's a good idea. I look at our counties like Duval and others and the way they're structuring, and we had conversations over the last couple of months about our directors in secondary leading and learning and elementary leading and learning. I know I hate to steal thunder from this afternoon because we're going to talk about it again, but who are overseeing a handful of schools, and a handful is small, a lot bigger handful because it's more than 5, right? A good handful of schools, 2 handfuls of schools, and other jobs, and Title I, and discipline, and all of the other things, charter programming and early learning. So it's a lot. And so we even talked about how other districts, we've heard from other people how other districts have like those director positions that are just supervising schools, and then other people are doing the other things. And so this kind of gets us more focused, and I actually like this area of focus. And we have to focus on this job description. For the job description, this is, to me, is a good idea to structure ourselves like this. You know, who's going to be in which seat, that's a different conversation, and I feel like what I'm hearing from you is that's a bigger issue than what the job is that they're doing. But as far as the structure, I think this is good, and when we had the discipline audit presentation, I know one of the things that I had concern with the discipline audit coming back is I am not going to be in favor of adding another cabinet member role, you know, and I think our public is frustrated. Sometimes I think we have too many. They don't have any idea what jobs these people are doing. But to add another cabinet level position, which is what they were recommending, I think that was not a good idea. So part of the way we can have discipline come to one place, and it hasn't been, it's been, you know, student services, secondary leading learning, elementary leading learning, kind of aligning all of that makes sense and is very helpful, and it helps us to accomplish the goal without adding funding, without adding, and help us to align that school supervision better. So I think when it comes to student performance, there can be a focus there. When it comes to discipline, there can be a focus there. When it comes to chain of command and all of that, there can be a little more alignment focus there. So for the job description itself, I think my personal thought is this is a good idea, and you know, and for me, we have to separate this conversation from who's in the role to the actual job that we're asking them to do.
Thank you. Anybody else? Good? Good, all the way around? I did want to just say, from the chair's perspective, that every single superintendent that I've been a part of, and I'm almost positive Dr. DePatri reorged. When Bingley came on, reorg. Blackburn came on, reorg. The reason Mullins didn't do too much of a reorg was he was a process to continue what was with Dr. Blackburn. So I think that it's consistent with other superintendents. It's in line with most of the large districts to have this position and others that we're seeing here. So I just wanted to say thank you for bringing it forward. With that, I'd like to call all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
4-1. All right. Ms. Jenkins, F21.
Need a motion?
Oh, yeah. Move to approve?
Second.
There we go. Any discussion? Ms.
Nope,
Jenkins.
it's the same concern.
Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
Passes 4-1. All right. Everybody good?
Yeah.
We will now hold a public hearing to address item G40, Public Policy 5511, Dressing and Grooming. Is there anyone present who wishes to address this item? Okay. If you can come down to the front if you wish to speak, that way we can roll pretty quickly. Thank you.
That was something to follow. So I'm gonna again sound like a broken record. When I attended Ms. Campbell's community forum, which shout out to Ms. Campbell for having one, nobody else did, there were elementary school administrators in the room. And when it came to dress code, the big ask of them was, please stop making policies for secondary education and we become the collateral damage. Because what's appropriate on my 14-year-old might look very different when she was 5 years old, and vice versa. So I'm really disappointed that you listened to some advice about taking out words like modest or reasonable under the guise that they're not enforceable. Because what is modest to Dr. Rendell might not be modest to Ms. Jenkins, and so on and so forth. We're doing that again. We're setting this policy up to fail again, and here's how. We've made the principal the arbitrator of this policy. So every school is going to have whatever variation of specifically point 4, not being able to dress to non-human characteristics. That's subjective. And again, what Dr. Rendell sees as dressing as non-human might be different from Ms. Campbell or Mr. Susan or whomever. So in an effort to unify our schools, to make sure that our policies, whether you're at Bayside or Endeavor, look the same, isn't gonna happen. Because that bullet point, I have talked to more people about this one topic than I've even talked about books. And everybody, their first reaction was, what does that even mean? What does it look like? And it's not clear in this policy. You're setting this policy up to fail. And like we're seeing with other policies that get done and then we have to open them back up to change them because of unintended consequences, like I'm screaming from the rooftops, there's unintended consequences. Again, this is another fire hydrant experience. I'm trying to tell you it's not going to work because it's too subjective. It needs to be more black and white, and especially for parents. When my little ones were in elementary school, my youngest loved the zip-up hoodies where, like, once you zip it up, you become like a cool Pokemon character. Under your policy, that's outlawed because guess what? A Pokemon isn't a human, so therefore she's dressing as a non-human entity. It's not just headbands. It's more well-rounded than that. And so I would really, really, really appreciate it if you could pull the policy back, be more black and white, not just for your administrators, not just for your teachers, not just for the staff, but also for the parents. Like, back to school shopping is coming, and frankly, we need to know precisely what our kids can and what our kids can't actually wear. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Kervin. Next up. Thank you.
Addressing the dress code. Why are we discussing a dress code? Where is the research to show that dress code is necessary to improving reading levels and graduation rates? How much taxpayer money has been spent on discussing this dress code? It is a complete waste of money and time. Please stop creating problems to solve and start solving real issues that our schools are facing, such as shortages of teachers, shortages of IAs, bus drivers, maintenance staff.
Can we speak to the actual
I am.
policy?
These-
No,
The dress
you're
code
not.
is not an issue. The dress code is the issue.
Dress code's the issue.
The
Can you
dress
speak
code is the
something to help
issue,
us?
and here are other issues that you
But
should be
those
addressing.
other issues are not supposed to be,
Maintenance
please.
staff,
Miss-
cafeteria staff.
Miss, can you
I
please?
attended.
No,
the
it's gotten to the
it
point
is
where
coming back.
if you then bring it back around, please.
Convening meeting as well. Do you know what was not mentioned at this meeting for resiliency and helping the mental health of our students? Dress code. Period. Why? Where's the research? Why are you wasting our taxpayer money on this ridiculous subject? Thank you.
Thank you. All right, seeing none, we're moving forward. Yeah. Just as I said, if you guys can come down and sit in the front so that I know. I didn't mean
Sure.
to move on, but
Oh,
it
no
wasn't,
problem.
they weren't there. Thank
Okay.
you.
I have to agree with Ms. Kervin said about the vagueness of this. You've left a wide open field for more dissension than anything else. And to arbitrarily just put this in the hands of principals is going to be a nightmare. You want to have a cohesive policy that's spelled out. And unfortunately for some people, yes, it has to state no cat ears, no collars, no leashes. You know, you just have to spell some things out for people because common sense seems to elude a lot of people in this world. But I'd like to talk about the most unpopular position that might help, and that's school uniforms. And when I say a school uniform, I don't mean parents having to go out and spend an expensive amount of money on a specific type of uniform. But each school has a school color. Why not say that kids can wear shirts of that school color and stick with black, khaki, and white pants? I don't know about you guys, but I've been to the high schools. We're educating our students for success, and do you not think that dress has an important role in that? I mean, as an employer once that hired people, I was appalled how people came to young kids came to job interviews. It was beyond appalling. Whether they had qualifications or not, I'm sorry, you come in flip-flops and short shorts, I'm not hiring you, okay? Because there's no decorum, and we're not teaching it in the system. There are studies about uniforms. There are pros, there are cons, but it has been shown that it reduces certain things like bullying, economic issues, you know, everybody is treated the same. It does improve morale. I don't know about the test scores or not, but there is a flood of information that can be looked into when you're thinking about possibly going in that direction. And like I said, you don't have to mandate uniforms that have to make parents go out and buy specific type of clothing, but you can mandate a consistent policy. And I hope you would at least try to consider it. This one, it's not cutting it. You're leaving this open for a nightmare, unfortunately.
Thank you. Next up.
Okay, hello. I would like to respectfully disagree with the input of uniforms. Uniforms, to me, limits expression and my ability to be creative with my outfits. See, take me as an example. So, if you can see what I'm wearing, I dress confident and act confident based on what I'm wearing. That's how I can be so confident in how I speak. Because of this, that if you give me a uniform and I can only wear that, that limits that. And then I can't add to it or subtract to it at all. And that kind of creates a problem to me. And I am not the kind of person who likes to fit in per se. I like to stand out. I like to walk into a room and all eyes go on me, you know? Because that's just kind of my personality. I like that because I like people. But you kind of will limit my expression with my clothing if you use uniforms. And I would also like to add with cat ears and cattails. I have a hoodie. It has cat ears on it. That could technically be against dress code. It is a black hoodie, but it has little cat ears on it. It is so cute. But that's against the dress code, and I would like wearing that. It's comfortable, but I wouldn't be allowed to because of how vague this is. It needs to be more boom, 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 less spectrumed, more put, if that makes sense. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next up.
I don't know that I'll take up the full 3 minutes, but I could be lying. First thing, the idea of the dress code. A dress code is just another tool which schools are in love with to promote complicity and compliance. That's it. You'll dress the way we say, you will talk the way we say, you will raise your hand to go to the bathroom, we'll eat when you say, walk where you say. It is just about compliance and conformity. More importantly, though, is then the inequitability of the dress code. It is insanely biased towards men. We all know the story. Well, if a woman wears and shows a little too much, it'll distract the men. Okay, and and if they're distracted, they're not going to do as well in school, which is not true. And we can't be at blame for their behaviors. That seems like a parental issue. And I know you are all about parental rights. So it is the parents' responsibility to make sure that their sons are not rapey, that they are not touchy, that they are not inappropriate, because that's the reason for that. And that's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, that concludes our speakers. Let's move on this.
Move to approve. Sorry.
Can I get a second? I'll second it. Is there any discussion?
Yeah.
Okay, Ms. Campbell?
So I so appreciate everybody coming up and sharing their thoughts on any plethora of issues, including this one today. But I do get a little frustrated sometimes when people come up, I'm just going to be quite honest, and they're really more arguing with each other than addressing what's in the agenda item. But clearly we need to go back and communicate better as to why we're here, why we're doing this, where we got the direction from it, and and what we're allowing, what we're not. So when we work as a board, we have a collaborative process. I know we had differences of opinion on how we worded the cat ear issue, but it is what it is, and I don't think it's as vague as what people are saying. But I have to say, to say we're still dealing with bias and gender things, that tells me you didn't read the policy as it is, because we took out a lot of that stuff. And also, we can't talk about uniforms today because this is not part of it, but many of our schools do. just so you know. Many of our schools do, and that this policy allows them to continue to do that. I was just at Golfview this spring, do a JA in the day, and their school has cute little, not uniforms, but like you mentioned, here are the colors you can wear, and it works great for their school. So it's a school-by-school decision. But, you know, I just want to go back and say, the policy as it stood was not working. It was not enforceable because of the inconsistencies. So we had to do work on this policy, whether people think if it was a waste of time and money. We had to do something, and it hadn't been touched in quite some time, since 2014, 2017 it says, but we had to make some adjustments. There was some things that needed to be in there that weren't in there, some things that were in there that actually many people who even stood up today said needed to not be in there, and we took care of that. And we got rid of, thankfully, because of some people who came up and did public comments at last meeting, we realized, oh, we had the wrong one attached. We still had all that vague language in there, and we got the right one. So thank you to those who came up last time, especially that drew our attention to it was the wrong attachment. But I also have to say, going back to the one issue that seems to be consistently the most controversial, that was driven by student voice. Student voice. We had over 2,000 comments from students in middle school and high school, and one of the most consistent things they said, we want to stop having this, was the dog collars, cat ears, tails. That issue was a student voice driven. Otherwise, we probably wouldn't have been having this conversation. But as we read through those comments, that was part of student voice that they thought was a real problem, a real distraction. And, you know, so I just want to make sure, because people sometimes are only paying attention when we get to these meetings, those are conversations we had in our workshops of why we're making these changes, why they're important, where it's coming from. And we also had principal voice and dean voice. We had all of that. We took all of that together, and with the help of the staff, took all those ideas and formulated this. And it may not be perfect, but it's better than what it was. And so I think we've done good work here. And again, not perfection, but it's good work. And I have confidence in our building administrators that they will be able to take this and make it what they need to best serve their own student populations. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you very much. Does anybody else wish to add anything, or are we good to go?
I'm
All right.
good.
With all of that, is there any discussion extra? No? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? 5-0. Dr. Rendell, will you please let us know about the items under the action portion of today's agenda?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we have two. The first item is H41, procurement solicitations.
Do I hear a motion?
Second.
Is there any discussion? I have something, but I'll wait for you guys. I would like to pull and table to the July 11th, the 23-646-P/DR, the contract for property. And the reason behind it is that I had some questions that I wanted to reach out to Ms. Scipio, but she wasn't available. I would just like to table it to the 11th. There's nothing that's devious or anything like that. I just had some follow-up questions. So if everybody's okay with that, I'd like to entertain a motion. I'd like to move to pull the item. Need a second?
I'll second it. Can I discuss that for a
Yep,
second?
absolutely.
I can't see my light because it's back here. All right. I'm glad that you're pulling that one up, because that is one of the ones that I asked for additional information on, and I did receive some of it, but for some reason I wasn't able to view it, so I had to request for permission. I'm hoping that will come through and I can review it beforehand. But yeah, so no, I'm in favor of pulling it just to give more adequate time to review, and I think the rest of the board will get the same documents that I had requested, so they may look at those as well.
So we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
Yeah, before we move on pulling this, I'd like to know what the consequences would be for the delay, because, you know, we have to have, you know, do we have coverage in the meantime, because that could cause a significant problem. And if we are at risk of losing our rate if we have the delay.
No, the rate won't be changed. I do know that.
I'd like to get confirmation of that from staff, please.
Okay.
Is there anyone that can speak to that?
And I'd say, because this has all been on the agenda since, all of these attachments have been here since the 14th when it was first released to us. So we had time, and I know sometimes it's been busy, but I just want to get those answers.
Hi, Judy Arnez. She is the Senior Vice President of Gallagher. She's here if you have any questions.
Not for her.
Okay. We won't have services starting 1
You have services for consulting, which means that it continues the contract just like it was going to when we didn't have it before. So when this was coming up before, back in October, we were sitting there, and the idea was is that if it didn't come forward, that we would just continue the services. I'm not saying that we're not going to approve it. I'm just saying I need to table it because we have some questions and the person that was in charge wasn't there.
Okay.
Again, Ms. Slasinski started providing an answer, and then you directly contradict her. Are we not going, what are we losing here? Are we losing just a brokerage service, or are we losing coverage? That's what I need to know. I'm trying to make sure we're not going to lose coverage.
We're not losing coverage.
I don't need an answer from you, Mr. Susan. I need the person who is the expert in this field, and I know you do insurance, but you don't do this kind of insurance.
She's not here.
The people who've been covering this job are here.
My understanding, it's the consulting.
That's it.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, board
Good morning.
members, staff, Judy Arns with Arthur J. Gallagher. A concern that I have is that I signed a contract that expires on through June 30th.
Okay.
So technically, you have no broker as of July 1.
And what would you do, Ms., that between now and July 1 that would be any different than the previous 6 months? What would your actions be? Because we've already renewed the policies for all of our coverages. There's no coverage issues, just like Mrs. Campbell said. And as I know, there's nothing that's going to be in the next 11 days, correct?
That's incorrect.
Okay.
We have a July 1 casualty program that is on the agenda.
It's already been passed.
Pardon?
That's already, the coverages have already been passed.
You
It's in-
passed.
it's the
you
consent
passed it on
agenda.
consent?
Yeah.
Okay. So we can go forward today, tomorrow, and bind coverage, but technically, as of July 1, you don't have a broker.
So you're not binding the coverage, we are, through the approval of those different lines of coverages.
I understand that.
Right.
A broker is the one who actually does the binding authority with the carriers specifically. You give us your approval, we take it to our carriers, and we give them direction to proceed accordingly. That is the most important thing, is to have the broker. If something happens, July 1 forward, what if we have a serious claim situation?
So you're saying that the policies that we renewed from each one of those carriers that we've signed off on and we would not go into effect because you, as the consultant, did not bind them?
That is not what I'm saying, sir. I'm
Okay.
saying that if we get an authorization today
Which we did.
to bind the casualty, it becomes effective July 1.
Yep.
Okay.
But you do not have a broker effective July 1, because our contract expires June 30th.
Right.
I'm not trying to be difficult. I
No,
mean,
but
my
the
concern
coverages, the coverages are the same, and the only, is what Ms. Campbell was asking, the coverages will be in place, and we just need to, to be honest with you, I don't have any problem with it. I just need to ask some questions regarding the
Right.
procurement process, and Ms. Wright has some, and I'm looking down at Mr. Trent, and if you'll give us a couple of days, I think everybody will be fine.
That is perfectly fine, but I'm just trying to answer your question
Thank
from
you.
a very technical basis, that you have a broker, the contract expires June 30th. July 1, you have your renewals. They will be processed. You will
Yep.
have binders. But if there is an event, you don't have a broker to advocate for you and to manage the process.
And I would say in that event, since we know that if there is a process, if there is an event, there's a longer process than 2 weeks to make claims and to do all that stuff, which would be in that event, we would have a broker in place because we're saying that we're just tabling it. We're not saying we're not going to do it. So I would say that if there is a claim in between, that is our team that actually puts it together. We're the ones that go investigate, we do all that stuff, and then if we did have the carrier coverage, then we would just work with the broker in 2 weeks. It's not a big deal.
I can agree to disagree, because on a serious matter, you have a fatality. What do you do if you have a fatality on your workers' compensation? You have to notify that carrier within 24 hours.
We do. Yep.
Or does the broker? Can I ask a question, just out of curiosity? Because I was trying to review some documents that I had requested last week, and one of the people that was granting those documents was on vacation, and then they ended up sending them, and I wasn't granted permission, so it was a whole thing. So you're saying that the risk that we run is if there's a major event that happens from July 1st to the 11th, when our next meeting is, that we would not have coverage in these areas, or no?
That's not what I'm saying. When I have a broker, what if we have a major hurricane? Our job as a broker is to deploy the claims people and every type of support we can to the school board.
Insurance company would do it.
I'm just being honest. I've been in
Okay.
business a long time.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make good sense to not have a brokerage contract in place when it expires. Technically, I lose my authority.
Yep.
My authority goes away without having a contract with Brevard Schools.
And in the event that we have a major catastrophe, and we normally, just so everybody understands, we make the claims through the carriers, we work with our consultants and stuff like that. That doesn't, if tomorrow a hurricane hits, it's not that within 2 weeks, all of this stuff is going to happen. We have to deploy things. We will be okay in the next 2 weeks to make sure due diligence on a large item. I'll be honest with you, we should have had this come before us a little bit earlier so that it wasn't running up against it. But I do think that with the gap of a consultant, there's not a risk of coverage. There's just a risk of you guys
Service.
assisting a major event in the 2 weeks that might happen, which, I don't think you would be able to deploy the resources after an event, after we're trying to make evaluations. I think we're okay here. I just
Well,
didn't want to make a decision
And I want
based
to,
on.
I want to just clarify, all of our insurances remain in place. They are still there. So, I mean, and I'm just going to go back to a normal average person here. When you call an insurance broker to get insurance, they secure the insurance company. And then at that point, when something happens, if your house floods, typically the homeowner calls the insurance company. And so you're saying in this case, the district typically calls you guys as the broker, and you, the broker.
On your property insurance, absolutely. And on the rest of your lines of coverage, we work with the third-party administrator and the claims department for Brevard Schools.
For workers' comp and stuff.
And I respect the fact that you call me a consultant, but we're not a consultant. We are the licensed broker. You cannot deal direct with the carrier to place coverage. You don't deal direct with the carrier to negotiate terms and conditions. We are a broker. And our job is to design programs, manage your program, market your program, bring me the best coverage we possibly can in current market, and support you 100% from safety, loss control, as well as claims. It's not a consulting role.
And then the other part of just so the main reason behind this is a major decision, and I just wanted to make sure that some of the things were checked with our personal CFO, and the issue that we run into is that she wasn't available. And I did not know that she was not available to the point where I wouldn't be able to get a hold of her. I spoke to Dr. Rendell about this, and I just, you know what I mean, I feel true that we'll be okay with the lines of coverage that we have in place. And then also just kind of doing our due diligence of making sure in the process of that we're not in a bad place. So that's the way I feel, and that's the reason I went where I was at.
So I guess I need some more, for me to understand, I'm trying to understand what the holdup is, because we had a request for more information. Ms. Wright asked for more information about the bids, and so it seemed to be, I don't want to put words in my mouth, but it seemed questioning the process, right? And so I had the same problem with Smartsheet. They had to grant permissions, but I didn't realize. But, our bid process, there's a process, there's a team of people, it goes through that, very open, as much as can be, unless I don't know if this is something that has to be closed, but, there's different cross-functional teams that sit on those committees that rate the different proposals or bids, whatever it is, in the procurement process. And so I guess I can't be in support of pulling it if I'm not understanding what the hang-up is, especially since we've had, and I understand Ms. Scipio hasn't been available, but someone has been covering her role. It's fallen under Ms. Lisinski, and for a month and a half at least. So I gotta understand why we've been on the agenda for 2 weeks and we're not getting these questions answered. I gotta have more, or I can't go with you on pulling this, because this particular broker, what we did today on these insurance, we didn't vote on contracts. What we did was we voted to grant the superintendent the authority to bind our insurance policies at a certain amount. And so that process, it's set in place. I don't think these insurance companies are going to pull their contracts and go, oh, nope, now we're not doing it. It's set in place, thank you. But that's the work that this broker did, correct? You brokered all those deals for us.
Absolutely.
Okay. So I gotta have more to go on besides, what you've given.
The person that I normally ask the questions to was not available, okay? That's the reason. There's questions that I have that are related to it that I just are standard policy process questions on a large consulting program. Gallagher's been our consultant for how many years?
I personally, and Gallagher, almost 24.
So it's not an issue of their quality. You guys are also the largest public sector related to property.
Very
There's
large.
no question to that, and I don't want this to ever get there. Just questions that we normally have about processes, and if we're going to be able to ask them on a regular basis, I wanted to pull it. That's it. And if you're not comfortable with that, then I totally understand. But I would ask to get the support to do that so that we could do our due diligence, that's all. That's it.
I'm with Ms. Campbell on this. It sounds like you have questions, and I understand the person wasn't there to answer them, but what are your questions? Because you're not articulating to the rest of the board what your concern is. So it doesn't make sense to give support to pull something without having any idea what the question is or why. What are we questioning?
When you said,
I'm not done. Mr. Susan, give me the same respect you give to the people to your right. I don't know who you think you talk to. I will not stand for it ever. I never have and I never will.
Ms. Jenkins, we're here
Ms.
about this
Campbell just
contract.
said the same statement, Mr. Susan.
Okay.
I find it interesting that you looked down the line and said, oh, and Mr. Trent, as if the three of you already are aware
No, I
of where
just
you're
see
going with
him
this.
saying
Mr.
yes.
Susan, I am speaking. It doesn't make sense to ask for support to pull something without being explicit about why. Just say why. It doesn't mean that I'm not going to support you. I genuinely have no idea what your concern is. I have no clue what your concern is. So say it.
Yeah, I did.
And I have a right to ask that.
Okay, my concern is that normally on large contract issues, I sit down with the person that's in charge, ask the questions as I review the documents. I did not get that opportunity. Now that Mrs. Lisinski's in charge, I can sit with her, and I just need to be able to table. I've said that this is a good organization.
And I hear you on that. I
Well,
do. I hear you on
it's
that.
what we're
But
supposed to do.
I don't understand what your questions are. I genuinely don't understand the why behind it.
Can I
I
jump
don't
in?
understand why
me
that's
too.
so difficult. Just give me a why. You don't have to give me all the whys.
Thank
If you have 10
Thank you,
questions,
Ms.
give me
Jenkins.
one.
Thank you.
I'll give you my why.
Thank you.
So-
I'm just significantly asking a question. I'm not joking.
It's
I'm
fine.
serious.
I think it's very smart for the board as a whole that when we are looking at contracts that are $1.5 million contracts that we're going to approve, we need to have all the facts before we make a decision. And for me, I would like to see the entire procurement process. I want to see all the bids. I want to see who was on the committee, who were the people that made that decision, how did they rank those people? And I'm going to use the contract that just came up within the last, month and a half, that I pulled into question, that would have 100% got across the board if I didn't flag it, that there was a problem. And I'm not saying that there's a problem with Gallagher at all. I'm not even saying that. I'm just saying we have to have all the facts before we make a $1.5 million decision for our district. And I don't feel like I have all the facts. For me, I'm missing the other pieces of this to say, yes, this is definitely the best company that I think we should go with.
And I appreciate your response, because that is a why to me.
Right.
You didn't get to see the other bids. Thank you. That's all I wanted to hear, because saying I have questions doesn't mean anything to me. I can't support saying, yeah, you guys need more time if I don't know why. So thank you.
Okay.
May I interject, please? The school board is not going to be cutting a check to Gallagher. There's a negotiated commission that's paid by the insurance company, direct to Gallagher. We do it on a percentage, a standard percentage, and anywhere from 10 to 15%. We have offered and was selected at 4%, which also included a large amount of value-added services, appraisals, loss control, certificate tracking. The list goes on. Those were the things that risk management said I want help with. I want support. So I'm not going to bring you a bill for Gallagher brokerage for $1.5 million. You do the percentages, and maybe it's 300. Your insurance program is enormous. It is multi-million dollars.
Yep.
That's not what the broker's getting. I'd love it if I got 10%. It would be brilliant.
And I don't
Retire
think any of
tomorrow.
that's the question. I think the bottom line is it's the process. We just want to check it out. We'd like to table it. So with that, we have a
Gene
second.
looks like he's
Do
ready
you wanna
to
say
speak.
anything?
Thank you.
All right, we'll call it in favor. All in favor signify by saying
Hang
aye.
on, let's clarify, we're
Well,
voting to table.
The
Table it
motion
to
was
the
to
11th.
table it till
Yep.
the 11th.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Nay.
Okay, now back to the original department-initiated agreements. We have the motion to approve and second already on the floor, correct, Mr. Gibbs?
Yeah.
So all we need is
The motion
discussion on it?
The motion is approve all the solicitations except for 41D.
Mhm. And so that's what's on the table. Is there any discussions on those items?
Yeah, I just want to say, because this has come up several times, to be quite honest, Board, I'm kind of approaching every meeting with our procurement things going, what's going to get pulled this time? And I want to call us back to our commitment to make sure that we're looking at the agenda early enough so that we can get those questions answered, because it's not fair to Gallagher. It's not fair to our staff that have to now scramble to do, or at different times scramble. So let's commit to looking at agenda, and if you want to skip over the things that are routine and go to these contracts first, that's what I'd recommend. Go look at the financial statements and things that are kind of routine later if you want to, but let's go to these first, because these contracts, when we keep pulling them, I think we're not setting our staff up for success. And I know that I don't think this is necessarily our intention, but every time we do that, we just insert an extra little question mark of stability that I think we're causing problems. So please, Board, let's commit to going back and reviewing the agenda as quickly as possible, because the staff did a really good job of not making any late additions on these two items. So let's make sure we're reviewing them early enough so we can get those questions answered sooner and not have these last-minute surprises that we've committed not to do.
And I think just for public comment, I did, previous to the entire time, try to reach out, trying to find answers. Didn't know Liskinsky was the point of contact, so we can go from there. I think if we can get Ms. Wright's access to the actual documentation, we should be pretty good too, and we can move on. So with that, if there's no other conversations, I'd like to call the question. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Passes 5-0. Okay. We will move to the information agenda, which includes items for board review and may be brought back.
Mr. Susan.
We did
We still have age 42.
Yes.
Jesus.
Sorry, we still have age 42.
Oh, yep. Next item is H42, Department School-Initiated Agreements. Do I hear a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Passes 5-0. We will move on to the information agenda that includes items for board review and may be brought back for action at the subsequent meeting. No action will be taken on these items today. There's one item under this category. Does any member wish to discuss any of these items? Hearing none, we are now at board member reports. Does any board member have anything further to report or discuss?
I do. Yes. I want to make a motion that we postpone our book review committee meeting that's happening on Friday. I was very adamant at the offsite that I would like to have that go back to policymaking immediately, so that we are able to have that committee make a recommendation to the board, and the board have the ultimate authority on that. Somehow or another, it got lost in transition. So I'm making the motion that we postpone book review committee this coming Friday until that policy is revised.
And I think it's not Dr. Rendell, we had spoken about this. Were you able to, just so everybody understands, the law changes July 1st and changes the entire infrastructure. We're meeting on the 30th, putting people through a meeting that then can change on the 1st. So I asked Dr. Rendell for his recommendation, and he had been working on something to that extent, so.
Basically, just waiting for the direction of board corporate. You do have a meeting scheduled for Friday. It is one book. We do have a policy in place. It does allow for public comment. We do want to revise that policy. We have to make some changes to it anyway because of the changes from the legislature. So we can postpone it, we can hold the meeting on Friday, really need kind of like board direction, you know, because it is your committee. So need board direction, don't necessarily need a vote, but
Yeah.
board
Okay.
corporate's direction. I believe that's
My
correct,
indication-
Mr. Gibbs, right?
If you're fine canceling it with the board consensus, I'm fine.
Correct. But I didn't want to make that decision myself.
Right.
I'm looking for direction from board corporate.
Ms. Jenkins,
So-
go ahead.
I understand the law is changing, I'm not arguing that, but we haven't had this scenario before, at least not that I can think of, where typically, if it starts with a policy, it has to continue with that policy that was in place when it started. So what
If
do
you,
we
if
do
you
then?
remember last time we postponed the book review committee back in November, I think, until we could revise the policy and implement the new procedures. So the board has done this before, and any book committee that comes in after July 1st has to meet the new statutory standards.
Right.
So we have to make changes before the next round.
Okay.
Since
mean,
this
I
is
just-
already scheduled, you could allow this one to go forward, and the next day, new standards would be in place.
Right, no, okay, I figured, we haven't had that happen where it was because of a law shift. It was always like, we would change the policy and then it had to follow the previous
Right.
policy, so I didn't understand how that would work, so, okay, thank you.
Okay. Anybody else have any other part of the discussion?
Yeah, I'm torn here because part of me, the reason why I didn't go anywhere was because we didn't have consensus on the 6th, and I see you're trying to get consensus today. You know, I'm torn because I want us to keep moving. These committee members have done the work and they're ready, and there will be a delay. There will be the delay because one, we don't, even though the law takes place on July 1st, we don't actually have all the details until we get them from the DOE. The DOE has to take the new law and give the specifics down to the districts. And so that could take a little bit longer. We're not talking about, and so we're talking about, they had another meeting scheduled in August for the next couple of books, and then we'll go from there. So we're talking about pushing it back several months. So I don't want to delay but on the other hand, the reason why I'm torn is having watched since the June 6th, or when we talked about this at our offsite, I got a chance to watch the whole meeting, and I had the same concerns in the day of that these are volunteers were asked to do very, very difficult jobs. And I did hear comments that were highly inappropriate, but they are required. The way we have it written, Sunshine Law, they are required to hear those. But people were threatening people, they were insulting people, and listen, we get paid to do that, we get threatened and insulted all the time, I'll take it, whatever. But the people that we've asked to do this very difficult job, whether you in the public like them or not, whether we on this board like each of them or not, it's not fair for them to be threatened and basically intimidating them into voting a certain way. That wasn't fair. And so, and when I look at it some more, I think that the statute says the board has that responsibility, and I've mentioned that several times. And so if we do take it back, the ultimate decision, one, the public comments get directed towards us, which I'll take that all day over my sweet volunteer who I love and I appreciate and apologize to every time I talk. I'm so sorry you're having to do this job. I'm so thankful for him. But I would rather that be going to us, and then we get the final say, which to me seems to align more with statute.
Yes.
That it's our responsibility, and we kind of give it up to the committee when we have them do that vote. And again, some people say, why do we keep tweaking this? Well, part of it is
Brand new.
we're entering uncharted territory. Before we made this policy change a couple years ago, we'd only ever had one book challenged. And so we had to get our book policy changed with the time. So I'm kind of torn, but from what I'm reading on social media, Friday is about to turn into an all-out nightmare. And honestly, I don't know that I think it would be fair for those 5 people to have to sit through another 5-hour meeting because people on the one side and people on the other side are all getting their posses coming and gonna flood the room. So with that, I am kind of in favor of, even though I don't want to stop the process, of let's stop the process, because I don't think it's fair to any of the 5 of them, or our staff who have to be here to have to sit through all that when our direction is for it to come back to us anyway.
Mr. Trent?
All right, so why are we doing this, possibly delaying this meeting? Because we care, and we care about the people that are involved, the people that agree with us and don't agree with us. We care about them, and they should not be treated the way they were treated at the last meeting. That was appalling. So if it were any people that say they align with me, that participated in that behavior, I would be saying the same thing. It's inexcusable and it's unnecessary. We are now to not one, but 2 volunteers that are being potentially destroyed online, going to their employers and stating that they shouldn't work and their jobs should be boycotted, their employers should be boycotted. This is where we're at. You know who you are, grow up, and let the process work. We're talking about our kids here, not taking jobs away from people. So it is one book, and it is, it's all over social media to be a circus about one book. So hopefully we can not wait till August. We get some information. I'm all for moving it into July. I'll publicly state this. If the person that I appointed to that position, if that person or their spouse attacks another committee member, I will be committed to removing that person. I would really hope we would all take that stance on committees when we appoint people. So you've got my thumbs up to move in the meeting and acting like adults.
Anything else to say?
No, I said my piece about it, so.
I thank you, Ms. Campbell, for some of your comments. You eloquently laid out the entire process. I truly appreciate that. Mr. Trent, some of your sentiments are exactly in line with the way I feel. Being personally attacked at my personal business multiple times, it becomes an issue of defamation of character and some other legal pieces. And these are individuals that are serving for us on this committee. And I think that this is something that we should definitely take a look at. And if our people or anybody else as a part of them are acting in an inappropriate way, we should address that immediately as individuals. So I'm in favor of moving this to have conversations and move forward and cancel off the meeting on Friday. It looks like Ms. Campbell is. Ms. Jenkins, are you there? Are you in favor of canceling this off to change the law?
Yeah, I'm also in favor of turning all of the temperature down, but I think people need to be honest with themselves about what's happening, because it is absolutely happening on both sides.
Good.
It's ridiculous. And someone who had to deal with constant threats and harassment, it's wrong. It is wrong on both sides. But be honest with yourselves about what's happening.
Yep. And I think that if there's any out there, that we should all address it and move forward. So does that give you the direction you need, Dr. Rendell?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we'll postpone that meeting until we revise the policy.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Rendell, do you have anything further to report?
I do not.
Okay. Being that, there is no further business. This meeting is now adjourned.